Franklin County Board of County Commissioners now in session for this Tuesday, November 21st regular meeting. If you would, let's stand, please. This morning, we're going to open the meeting with a moment of silence in memory of Commissioner Noah Lockley, Jr. Please stand. Thank you. Our Father, we thank you today for this day that you've given unto us. We pray that you would help us to make it the most productive and useful we can possibly do. Father, we thank you for everything that's in front of us this morning, for the opportunity to exercise discernment and wisdom on behalf of the residents of Franklin County. Father, be with us today in this meeting, we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. This morning, if it's okay with everyone, I think we're going to take a moment of personal privilege. I know we normally do commissioner comments at the end, but given the events of today, I think it'd be more appropriate now. You know, I had the pleasure of serving Noah for 7 years on this board. Did we always say eye to eye? No. But I want to share something with you that maybe I won't get to share in any other format. I can remember back in 2016 when I was sitting where Commissioner Ward sitting, and Commissioner Lockley is where Commissioner Sanders was. Man, I thought I was ready to sit in that seat. And I'm sitting there trying to pay attention, trying to stay up to 2 o'clock in the morning reading stuff so I know what I'm talking about. And I get to the meeting and of course it's being filmed. So there's that on top of everything else. Never really faced that before. And Commissioner Lockley is always saying stuff under his breath. Nobody else could hear it, but I could hear it. And I'm like, Lord Jesus, help me not be a meme on somebody's social media because I cut him a side eye or something like, what are you doing? But it was something to get used to. And then another moment that I thought was special that I was like, but here's the thing, Commissioner Lockley got away with things that only Commissioner Lockley could. But I remember one Christmas, my wife made some cupcakes we brought to everybody. Well, the thing she had to put them in was plastic. In the middle of the meeting, Commissioner Lockley decided he wanted a cupcake. So he started trying to finagle with that plastic thing, and he was going, and I'm sitting there saying, my God, man, please, we'll just take a break. But I wasn't in the chair, you know what I mean? I was like, we could take a break so you'd get a cupcake, but I didn't say nothing. I didn't look crazy because I knew that would be videoed. But it was a special thing to serve with, and I wanted to open it up to this morning to the commissioners if they wanted to share some things about Commissioner Lockley, because, you know, he was special. He will be missed. And like I was able to tell him the other day on an interview, he will not be replaced. He was one of a kind. There might be somebody else that fills that spot, but he will definitely never be replaced. He was special.
Mr. Chair, I'll take my turn. I didn't get to serve, unfortunately, Mr. Noah, for the 3 years of the 4, but I will say when I was first elected and getting sworn in, I was sitting in that pew right there where Mr. Devon is, and Commissioner Lockley was the chairman at the time, and I didn't know what to do. I was nervous. I think I was more nervous that day than I was election night, and Commissioner Lockley came up to me and he said, come on, go take your seat. And so from that moment, all my nervousness just kind of went away. And he welcomed me to this board, and we laugh and we joked, and during breaks, we always laugh because, you know, for the workshops, we'd break for the public hearings of the workshops, and he wouldn't come back. So, and I just went to a conference down in Tampa, and everybody from the whole Florida Association of Counties, the Small County Coalition, everybody shared the same sentiment that he was a great, great man. He spoke his mind. He didn't hold anything back. And that's why he served for 19 you might as well say 20 years, because he's still here with us. I know that. And he's left a mark in this community. He's always going to be remembered, and he's always going to be cherished, and his legacy will live on. So,
I'm not gonna force anybody to talk. I don't want y'all to feel that way. But if y'all want to, now's the time.
Well, I didn't get to serve with him up here, but a brief moment. And he did make me feel comfortable. I got to go meet with him before the election. I actually met with everybody before the election while it was legal. And but anyway, he was the thing I'm gonna miss. It has nothing to do with this up here. I mean, I can't tell you how many times you see him at Bayfront Station buying them scratch offs, and he's just always been a part of the community. But he was a great commissioner. While I was campaigning, I just heard so many people from my district that reached out to him. He didn't mind helping anybody in the county. That's just the kind of man he was. But I will tell you this, I shared this with my other commissioners over the weekend, Saturday morning, and it was dark, and I was going to my deer stand, and it sounded like a bear coming through there. Nothing, FWC, calm down over there, but, and I turned my little light over there, and here come a possum running out. And the first thing I thought of was Mr. Noah, because every time we would start running a little long over here, if y'all I don't know if y'all noticed or not, but you always hear that.
Yes,
Yeah. That was his key for let's
go.
Let's get this done. And I looked at him, he told me, he said, it's time to go get a possum. And my possum sandwich. And it just made me think of him Saturday morning, which I've thought of him numerous times over the last few months. But Saturday morning, it just kind of hit home. But he will be missed. He was a great man. He was a great personality in this community, especially a small community like ours. We all depend on one another, one shape or form. And his presence will be missed, not just on this board, but in the community in general.
We good, Commissioner?
Not right now.
Okay, that's fine. Like I said, I wasn't trying to force anybody. It's a different moment. Hopefully we'll never have another moment like this.
You hope not.
You know what I mean? But it needed to be, I think some things need to be shared. All right, let's go with Mr. Morone, did we have anything to add to the agenda?
Not that I
Other than
know.
what's published?
Aaron is working on some additional resolutions. I'm sorry. Aaron is working on some additional resolutions back there in her office at the moment.
Okay,
But her report is already there, and she already references the resolutions.
oh, so the resolution's already in the agenda, she's just working on the
Well,
word?
yeah, the narrative is there, the actual resolution is what she's working on at the
Okay,
moment.
so that's already in the agenda
I
then?
hope, yes.
Okay. So do I have a motion to approve the agenda as it's been published?
So move.
All right,
Second.
we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Sanders, second by Commissioner Amison. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Now, we also have, next motion is approval of minutes from the budget workshop, 7/27, special meeting on 10/11, the special meeting on 10/26, and payment of the county bills.
so move.
All right,
Second.
we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Sanders. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Sir, do we have anybody turn in a card for public comments?
You know, there was one, I'm sorry, sir, I got sidetracked here, let me double check to make sure. Check at 8:40, and there were, no,
Okay.
actually, no, the one that's there is for the next meeting, so no.
Okay, all right, then we move on to the next item on the agenda, Ms. Jennifer Daniels, EOC Director, with a request is what it says.
Yes, sir. First, I want to apologize, for coming after budget to ask for this. I thought I had funding secured for this purchase prior to budget year, and that's why I did not ask for it in our budget. But the funding, the grant funding that we thought we were gonna get did not happen, and so we have an opportunity here to buy a mobile command from the Gulf County Emergency Management Office. I've emailed all the specs and pictures and everything about it to y'all. We will have to do minimal, very minimal renovations to it to make it work. And I've talked to Aaron. Aaron said that we could pull the money out of general revenue. There should be some there we could get it from. And so I'm asking for your approval to purchase this from Gulf County.
All right. Mr. Morone, do you have the ability to put those pictures up there? Just so the public can see what we're talking about?
I will say, Mr. Chairman, while he's doing that, Jennifer called, we discussed this, and I'm sure she did all the rest of the commissioners too, and looking at the price, they're asking 15,000. It comes with everything, all the amenities. It actually comes with a generator. It's a Honda generator. Was it 7,000? Anyway, a generator is gonna be fully functional to power whatever she's gonna need. And if you go out and you look for a camper, you shop for a camper, or anything of that nature, RV, you're gonna pay way more than that, way more. It looks like it's not been used. It looks like it's in pretty good shape. And Jennifer, you said there's no soft spots in the floor, roof doesn't look like there's been any leaks or water damage of any kind.
No, ma'am.
I mean, me personally, I think this is a good deal for the price that they're asking for. It's been garage kept, it's never been exposed to the inclement weather or the elements.
And it also comes with the leveling system and a weight distribution hitch also.
And the only thing, Mr. Chairman, sorry, the only thing we're gonna have to do really to it is take the Gulf County emblem off and replace it with our emblem.
Yes, ma'am. And then
And the
with
slide outs work and the awning works, everything works.
slide outs work, awning works, the only other thing we will for sure do is take out the master bed in the front of it, because we don't need that. We need it to be a comms room so we can hook all of our radio equipment up in there, and our Starlink and anything we would need to be fully functional out in the field. So we'll take that out and make that an area with desk in there and seats for people to work. And then we're gonna probably extend the main dining room table area with just like, gonna put a hinge with an extra leaf that we can fold up to extend that longer if we need it. But other than that, that's very minimal what we need to do to it.
Okay.
Pleasure of the board.
I make a motion to approve this.
I second the comment,
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Sanders, second by Commissioner
but
Amison.
it's not-
Go ahead.
more of a recommendation. Need to get that, or at least ask Gulf County when the last time they went in and caught the top, or had that checked.
Yes,
And
sir.
this is just from experience.
Oh, no,
Recent
yes.
experience. But that's something that about every 6 months, they recommend to go back up and make sure that, cause that caulk dry rots, even under storage, it'll dry rot over time, and then that's where it's gonna slip in on you, so.
Yes,
But
sir.
no, as our conversation, I support it 100%.
Yes, sir.
All right, any more discussion before we vote? We do have a motion and second to approve this request to purchase. All in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous. Anything else, Ms. Daniels?
When can I pick it up? No, I'm just kidding.
I guess when you get the check.
Yes, sir.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to y'all too. Thank you.
Ms. Courtney Bankston?
Good morning.
Good morning.
So the only thing I have for you today is a request from Garlic Environmental. It's for the landings at St. George PUD. They have a proposed PUD that's been formulated, but they want to request for a workshop to discuss everything. So that's basically what I'm coming forward to you for, is to request a workshop on it.
Okay. Attorney Schuler, what does the schedule look like for workshops and things of that nature? Do we already have some planned or coming up, or what are we looking at? I think we need to know before we think about it.
Would defer to Mr. Morone, I don't really know. I know we had talked about doing a workshop for,
Golf
the
course.
low-speed vehicles. I
Yep.
thought that's going to be scheduled for December the 5th. I think y'all did that at the last meeting, right,
Yep.
Mike?
That's correct.
Yeah.
I think there was a discussion about potentially having workshops, on the December 19th and the first meeting in January for the low-speed vehicles, but y'all decided, given the holiday schedule, that y'all didn't want the potential public participation, I recall y'all didn't want to schedule then, so you
Right.
scheduled for the 5th, so, I mean, those are the only workshops that I'm aware of that have been
Okay.
scheduled.
Commissioner, the 19th would be, December 19th is a week before
Christmas.
Christmas,
Yeah.
like today, right before Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
And then your first January is January 2nd, right after New Year's Day. So I don't think I have anything for the second meeting in January, any workshops. But I would tell you, I would recommend that.
Okay.
And I would go ahead and recommend a 5 o'clock one too for this, because it's a very, gentlemen, excuse me, could be controversial with some of the people on the island.
Yep.
Don't laugh at me, Dan, but you know, so I think you would want to put it at a time and a date when you could, you know, when it seems.
Commissioner Amos got a conflict with that date, I think is what it
Yeah,
just said.
I'll be out of town between the 8th and the 12th.
Okay,
So it'd probably have to be after the 12th.
okay, so.
Commissioner Ward, what's your schedule like in the middle of January?
The 11th, I probably won't be available. I could be available the 11th.
Well, the 11th
Are you talking about like on a Tuesday or?
Yeah, 8th through 12th, he cannot be here.
Oh, I got
Or
you.
he's not gonna be
Okay.
here.
I'm good all the rest of, I mean, whatever y'all, however y'all wanna do it, I'm good.
The 8th
Okay.
and 12th of January?
Yes.
Well,
yeah.
our next regular meeting is the 16th in January.
We could do it at 5, you wanna do it at 5 o'clock that evening?
We could do the second, well, not the second, I don't recommend the second, I recommend the 16th at 5 o'clock.
We want to make sure we have the most public participation, or we
Mhm.
don't want people to say that
Yeah, we
we
can.
held at a time that they
Yeah.
either wasn't in town or couldn't come, or that kind of defeats the purpose of asking for a workshop, you know what I mean? That's all I'm saying. It's not a,
So, January 16th at 9 for everybody, that's your meeting date.
You mean the public workshopping at 5, not 9, right?
I'm sorry, at 5,
yes.
Okay.
yes,
So January
Um,
16th,
at 5.
Mr. Garland,
Is that scheduled?
does that schedule work for you guys? Okay,
We're on your schedule. I mean, we talked about December 19th. If
Right.
that's not available, then
right,
sure,
okay.
yeah. But we think we do want to make sure that we have good public participation. That's the whole idea of this workshop.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's what we're going on, exactly. Okay, so y'all good with that date?
January 16th.
Make a note right now, sir.
All right, so I guess we need a motion, if the board's so inclined to actually approve that, correct?
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to approve the workshop at 5, January 16th at 5 PM.
Okay,
What was the date again?
the,
The 16th?
the 16th of
December
January.
16th?
January.
January.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the third Tuesday in January.
5 PM?
5
Yes,
p.m.
yes.
Second.
So we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Sanders, to hold this workshop about the Landings PUD, over on St. George Island at 5 o'clock on the 16th of January. Any more discussion before we vote? You have a question?
Well, I was going to, were you able to get a copy of the executive summary
Yes.
to them?
They
Okay,
did.
okay,
Yes,
great.
please. All right.
Thanks.
Any more discussion before we vote, Commissioners? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That's unanimous. All right. That's it?
Yep, that's all I have for y'all, unless y'all have anything for me.
Nah, I'm good.
I do want to thank Courtney for the drapes, the ribbons, everything you've seen.
Yes, yes.
That was on Courtney. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Courtney.
Yeah,
for
it was a nice touch.
using your talent for good.
It was.
Thank you so much.
It was. I don't see Miss Val Webb here, so do we go to Miss,
Mr. Tolliver.
oh, Miss Challenger, okay. So it's not gonna be both of them, it's just one of them?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
You come right on in time.
You're right in time,
Right
sir.
on time.
Come on down, you're next.
He's missing a meeting or two.
Mr. Tolliver with the North Florida African American Corridor Project.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners,
Good
good
morning.
morning. My name is Willie Tolliver, and I was born here in Apalachicola. My mother's family came to Franklin County in about 1910 to work in Tilton, Florida. Her father worked for the lumber company there. And I've been doing research on our family, and lo and behold, the state of Florida now has funds available to help protect and preserve abandoned cemeteries. And there is a cemetery at that location which is now the Boxar Ranch. I've talked to Mark Currington. We have a death certificate for my mom's mother, my maternal grandmother. She and my grandfather are buried there. Of course, they had no means to put any kind of grave markers, and we are working with Jeff Shanks, who is an archaeologist. He's an archaeologist. And there are sensors that can be used to identify where the graves are. Mark says that the cemetery is there are no markings. We would like to apply for funds to do this work. The work is sophisticated enough now that they can actually identify the DNA so that markers could be placed on the graves and they would be preserved. We think this is a wonderful use of that money to protect and preserve these cemeteries. And I am a living descendant of someone who's actually buried there, two people, two bodies rather. Any questions for you? We need a letter of support from you. That's our request to you.
Okay, so the ask is for a letter of support
Yes, sir.
to the state?
To the state, yes.
Okay.
It's written out in the document, it's to the Department of State.
Okay,
You can get up to $50,000.
okay.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Tolliver, thank you. That was a nice little piece of history, because I didn't realize that there
Yes.
was a graveyard there in that area.
Yeah, it's actually on the Google map,
Oh, wow,
right? It's
Wow.
called the Boxar Cemetery,
wow.
yes.
I'm in full support of this. I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the letter of support.
Okay.
I second the motion.
All right. So we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Amison. Please proceed.
I think it's wonderful.
Thank you.
Actually, my father's grandfather was the foreman at that lumber company
Wow.
back in the early 1900s.
So we should talk, I really.
Yeah, that's what I was about to,
That's right, I would
say
love
I
to get
would-
more history about it.
I'd like to pick his brain first.
Yes,
So I
indeed.
know I'm talking, you know,
Okay.
facts, so to speak, but.
Thank
but
you so
I think
much.
it's wonderful, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, any other discussion before we vote?
I'd just like to say, do you know how many graves are out there, Mr. Tyler?
We do not know until we do this survey.
I thought you might know from history. I don't know if you all are aware, but we've got a bunch of cemeteries, like
guess.
quite a few cemeteries in Franklin County that's not identified, but they're there. You know what I mean?
Well, if,
Um,
we would love to work with you. If you just tell us
Yeah.
where they are, we will write grants to do it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's people, cause back in those days, you had a lot of people coming in for the turpentine.
That's right.
Collecting the turpentine. You had the cotton fields in here.
Yes.
You had the, all that kind of
Yes,
stuff in
that's
here.
right.
And they were all little settlements all around. And there's no telling how many people
right.
buried out there in those
Yeah,
woods.
Tilton actually had a church, a commissary, 28 houses for Negroes, and I think about 7 for whites, and 1 for a superintendent, so it must have been.
Well,
Yeah.
Mr. Dollar, if you don't mind, I would like to get in touch with you after this.
Yes.
Because my uncle, my great uncle, grew up right there.
Awesome.
One of those houses, that's
Yes.
what they ran around, but he's still alive and kicking if he quit falling down. But
I would
bless
love
his
to speak
heart.
to
But
him.
anyway, he would probably, I'd like to get you two connected, because he could probably give you a lot of history.
Thank you
on
so
that
much.
right there.
And Mark would be interested too, because I got what I have from Mark Currington. So we'll share it with him too.
Okay, wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, before you vote, Mr. Tolliver, so you don't, I'm sorry, maybe I misunderstood Ms. West about that you don't need to apply, the county doesn't need to apply on behalf or partner with you. You guys apply, you just need a letter of support from us.
That's right.
Okay, I misunderstood. Good,
Yes.
great.
Okay.
And we'll be in contact so I can get that letter worded the way it benefits.
Thank you so much, Mr.
I
Moran.
sure will, sir.
Appreciate you.
Any more discussion before we vote? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. And Dr. Brooke is by Zoom, or is she here?
Well,
Is she gonna be here?
see her on, let me see. I thought she was coming, so she might be running a few minutes late.
Okay. What about Andrew and Tara? Are they by
Tara's
Zoom?
online.
Okay.
Let me go ahead.
Let's just skip ahead to that for now.
And there's Tara.
When Dr.
Hello.
Brooke shows up, we'll handle it. Good morning.
Good morning. I have a sinus infection today, so I'm going to try to get through this without reaching for a tissue. But good morning, commissioners. So we are here today, and Andrew is on the phone. He's having internet trouble, so he's not on a video.
Okay.
But here today to seek permission to offer rental car services to the general public out at the Apalachicola Airport with a 3% rental car concession fee on all rentals, which would be paid back to the county. How we came up with that 3% is we just took a look at the average airport rental car concession fees throughout the state of Florida. And they're anywhere right now from 0% for at the general aviation airports where there's no commercial airline service, up to about 11.1% at airports where they have commercial airline services and there's a dedicated infrastructure such as parking lots, parking garages, rental car counters in the baggage area, those types of things. So that's kind of how we came up with the 3% and proposed that. But obviously, we're looking to the board to see if this is a service that you'd like to give us permission to offer, and then what the to set the rental car concession fee out at the Apalachicola Airport.
Ms. Chair, I want to ask a question. First off, thank y'all for doing that. I've asked about this several times over the last year or so about it. Different times I've talked with Andrew because I can just see a need just past the general aviation, but there are residents in the community that I talk to all the time that when it comes time to rent a car, they're having to drive to Panama or Tallahassee. That's not helping Franklin County or its business.
Right.
So thank you for that. The other thing I wanted to ask, though, is you guys aren't, I want to make sure I'm correct, you guys aren't doing an agreement with Hertz or Avis or one of those entities. Explain that to us. These are cars
Right.
you guys are providing, correct?
Right, these are our own cars. So it started out just offering them to the flying public and the visitors coming into Apalachicola. But, we have these cars here and we feel like they could go to better utilization if we offer it up to the general public. So, case in point, like you said, someone's car breaks down locally and their car's in the shop for a week or two, they could rent a car, or if you're going on a big family vacation and need a reliable, larger SUV, we have those available as well. So, we feel like it could benefit the community. It's not done through Hertz. It's our own separate business. But we would run it out of, the space that we currently have there out of the FBO.
Follow-up question, how many total vehicles to start with, just so we have an idea?
5 to start with, anywhere from a compact up to a full-size SUV.
Okay. Well, and not to belabor the point, but just to give an illustration of exactly what you're talking about. It's been some time ago, but there was a time that my family and I were going on vacation, and the day before our transmission went out in our vehicle. And my wife was like, well, what are we going to do? We've already paid for this vacation. We're going on
Right.
vacation. So we went to Panama City and rented a car and went on vacation, and we come back, we took care of the transmission. Not trying to belabor the point, but that's one of the reasons I'm mentioning it. Things like that happen more than we think they might. And it's only going to be a benefit to our citizens to be able to rent cars publicly, locally, I mean. That's all I had. I just had some questions about it. Anyone else have any questions?
I do, actually. Terry, good morning. It's Commissioner
Morning.
Anderson. The fleet that you're talking about, this is the fleet that's advertised on your website?
Yes, we have multiple other locations, but the fleet that is there is the same, yes.
Okay. Then the reason I ask is it goes back to what you just said, case in point, about being able to rent a car. And I'm by no means gonna tell you what to charge for your cars, but that's not, I don't know if that would be very economical for a local to, I believe that at what's advertised right now, I believe it'd be a better bang for their buck to go to Hertz in Panama. And again, I'm not knocking what you're doing there, but the idea of this is to provide a service for the community to access, and I don't, I just personally don't see where that's going to be a big kick with the local community. And I'm not trying to deter it. I think it's a great idea. I just don't know where that's going to at those rates where it would apply to a normal Franklin County citizen, so to speak.
Sure. So our rates work off of a sliding scale. So if you were to go onto the website and only look for a 1-day rate, that's going to be the most expensive rate. But then if you're, renting a car for a week or 2 weeks, the daily rate goes down every day. So, I mean, a compact car, if you were doing a long-term rental on it, goes down to about $50 a day.
Okay.
So it really depends, you know, it's very similar, that's a similar pricing structure to Hertz, but it slides. So the longer you rent it, the daily rate goes down.
Okay, I appreciate that clarification.
Yeah, and it's also, part of that industry. I'm pretty sure that all the ones that are doing it, that's all they do for a living. They're having to offer some of those lower daily rates, and you see them advertised on TV, because they have cars sitting there and they're not moving, because nobody's, you know what I mean?
Right.
They need them
Right.
to move more frequently, because that's all they're doing is renting cars, you know what I mean?
Right.
So part of that's what's involved.
Yep, appreciate the questions.
Any more questions or concerns, or? So, Ms. Terry, you're saying that the percentage is 3%?
That's what we proposed.
Okay. I personally am good with that, because, and here's why. Especially knowing that you guys these are your cars that you're providing. Now, it might be a different discussion 3 years down the road if you've had to increase your fleet to 15 or 20 cars because you're renting that much. That might be a different discussion. But, you know, to give time as an incentive to promote business like we're trying to do at the airport, I think it's a good idea to start with a lower amount and kind of work our way forward. But, since I can't make a motion or vote, it's a pleasure to
Mr. Chair,
vote.
on that, I mean, this is one of those things where we don't agree, but that's fine. I don't agree with that, and the reason why is because, you know, and I've sent, Michael put some attachments in here that shows the FBO lease agreement and everything, and the items. And keep in mind, and this is the time I get to express something to my fellow commissioners. There's gonna come possibly a day to where we don't have Jingoli. And now we have an employee out there full-time. We gave them a very attractive discounted rate in the last 5 years plus on hangars. What we've got to have is some foresight with this. If we don't start getting a better percentage, and Tara, I'm more for around the 10% range, just so you know. But the thing is what I'm trying to say is if we're not careful, we're going to find ourselves back having to use ad valorem to finance the stuff that we're or to pay for the stuff that we're trying to do out there. And again, I'm not against anything. I just want to make sure that we're getting adequate percentage, because let's just say 3 years down the road they've increased their fleet. You know, we're still stuck here with a minute 3%, and we're still giving. You know, we already gave a great concession with the contract agreement that we finalized in July. So we just need to, as a commissioner or as a board, we need to keep that in mind going forward, because we're going to find ourselves back into a position to where we won't have community support at the airport like we have right now. Because right now the airport's standing on its own 2 feet. If we don't utilize what we have out there and make sure we get the best bang for our taxpayers' bucks around here, we're going to be back into a position where we were 6 years ago, 7 years ago. But that's my only thought with that. So we need to keep that in mind.
Oh, yeah. And I'm good with that. And I know it seems like we're opposing. We're not opposing. We're just talking about approaching it different ways. Because as we move forward, commissioners, and we're able to get anything out of Triumph, you know, then we're going to see some real stuff at the airport, because right now that's what's kind of holding us back. Without adequate infrastructure to go with some of the other things, we have, I'll put it to you this way, I've been told, and you probably have too, all of you guys have probably been told, we have numerous people looking at our airport for economic development, to move here, to do things there. But they're not going to wait and say, well, it's going to take 2 years for actually be able to look to use it, because there's nothing here for me to move to. So that's part of what we're doing going forward. And I think, you know, in my mind, all I'm saying is I want to take the Walmart approach. I want to get a little bit from everybody. I don't want to get it all from one person. That's all I'm saying, like Kmart does. So that's all I'm saying.
Mr. Chairman, so basically what we're looking at right now is 5 cars at 3%.
Yep.
So can we potentially, you know, 5 cars really isn't a lot. Can we do it in a way where the more cars they get equals more percentage, of course, but then don't they have to come back to the board to ask again, or looking at the lease, the way it is, if they add more cars, is there a way, shouldn't they have to come back and ask
Yes.
for, okay,
You could require that as part of any approvals which may be given by the board this morning. If they increase the fleet, they need to come back and renegotiate with the board to increase the fleet and discuss a negotiation on the percentage. Yes, that can be done.
okay.
Okay. Any more questions, concerns?
Just one more, and I got the numbers right here, but if you, think about this now, we're leasing 25,600 square feet to them at about 267 a square foot, it's about the average. I mean, again, I support them 100%, but we got to make sure that we're getting the right amount of money for what we got out there. So just keep that in mind. That's why going forward, you know, we can sit here and talk about Triumph, but we know what's happened there. We can't sit here and make decisions based off what we hope's gonna happen down the road. We gotta make sure we look after our money now. And that's why I say we need to stick with at least a 10% or close to 10%, going forward with this.
It's a pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Amison, what's your recommendation?
10%, that would be my recommendation.
Tara, what's your thought?
It's, like I said, we proposed 3%, but we're just looking to the board to set whatever concession fee they think makes sense for the airport.
And that's Chairman, sorry, 10% on the 5 cars and then just 10% across the board, or you want more, like if they add more to the fleet, you want more than that 10%?
Well, you know, 10% of $50 is $5. I mean, we're not talking about
A lot of money.
a huge sum of money. And that's what I'm saying, it's not like a big ask, it's kind of, you know, it's generous, especially given, like I said, already we're the position that we're with the agreement, which we're trying to promote or give them plenty of room for business growth. I mean, it's been attractive for a very long time, but it's time that the county starts seeing a little bit, because we're gonna have bills come due. And hopefully, we can keep Jingoli around for a long time, but that may not happen, and we need to be self-sustainable in case we lose that. Because right now, that's what's really throwing the money into the airport fund. Outside, now, and I'm talking about outside of grants, I'm just talking about money that we're generating and making, you know.
May I add one more thing?
Yes, ma'am.
So if we do the 10%, so that would really be 17.5%, because there's the sales tax too. I'm just throwing that out there. And then Florida has the $2 a day daily surcharge fee for any rental vehicle. So that's on top of that as well.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Tara.
Mhm.
So what's the pleasure of the board?
I make a motion that we approve it based on a 10% fee.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the car rental proposal at a 10% agreement by Commissioner Amison.
I'll second.
We have a second by Commissioner Ward. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you, Ms. Tara.
Thank you for your time.
You have a happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you.
All right. Dr. Brooke is still not here, so I guess we'll go on to our bids.
Yeah, I got word that she is about 20 minutes out? Yeah,
Okay.
roughly.
So,
So,
do
yeah,
you
we can
have-
get our bids. Let me get
Ms.
Aaron.
Aaron?
Well, here, like magic.
She's not used to us being ahead of.
There you go, that's the whole thing.
Ooh, that's a lot of bids.
Yeah, sure do, Commissioner. We got a lot of responses, Commissioner Amerson, we got some
That's
responses.
good.
And we were always worried about that.
I mean, you can get the responses you want. Mike, sir, do you have a pen?
I sure do.
I see you have everything but a pen.
Here, you got mine. Oh,
I thought I had two.
yours is in your office, so I gave it to you.
All right, Ms. Aaron, the way it's listed, the first one is for the CR 67 Phase 2 widening resurfacing project.
Correct, yep. It
Yep.
will, it consists of approximately 1.92 miles of widening and resurfacing. That's CR 67 north of Carabel.
Okay. And while you're looking, Commissioner Sanders, is that gonna address some of the issues you've raised about the width of it and all?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's, I think they've addressed that, haven't they?
Correct.
Because
Okay.
last time y'all had to, because the cost of the, from what I understand, I wasn't here, but from what I understand, the cost, you wasn't given enough money to do the whole, what is it, 24 feet?
Yes.
Yeah, yep.
And so you had to go back to shorter.
Yeah.
So let's hope we don't do that. Because we still have log trucks running
Yeah, you do.
and stuff. And so
Daily, trust
we
me.
need that.
Yes, we do.
It's a heavily traveled road.
And Commissioners, the first one is C.W. Roberts Contracting from Tallahassee, Florida. And their amount is here. Okay, let's see, their total base bid is $2,242,095.68. Again, $2,242,095.68. Now, we also have some deductive bid alternates, and at this point in time, I'm not going to read all of those because there is about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's actually 4 different bid deduction alternates, so we'll just go with the base
Okay.
bid.
Is there a
reading
bond?
alone. There is a bond.
Okay.
Yep. Yep, bond is attached. Next one is going to be Robertson Incorporated of Tallahassee, Florida. Okay, total base bid, $1,909,657.01. Again, $1,909,657.01. And they also have the deductive alternates as well, and let's make sure their bid bond, and their bid bond is attached.
Okay.
And these are C30.
Okay. Okay, and the next one is Capital Asphalt Incorporated from Tallahassee, Florida. Total base bid, $2,678,469.72. Again, $2,678,469.72. And they also have the deductive bid alternates on here. And there is also a bid bond attached.
So who's the review committee for this, Ms. Aaron?
This will actually be released back to the engineers.
Okay.
For their review and recommendation.
To the engineer.
Yes, and we do need a motion to that.
I'll second with comment.
All right, so we have a motion by Commissioner Sanders to do just that, to turn it over to the engineers for their review and approval of the award. And we have second by Commissioner Ward. Go ahead, Commissioner, with your comment.
I just want to make a note. This is for 1.92 miles of road.
Yep.
That just goes to show you how much prices have increased over the past, just the 3 years I've been sitting on this board. It's ridiculous. And, you know, that's all I'm gonna say about that. It's ridiculous, but anyway.
We all thought groceries were bad.
Mm.
They are.
And the next one's for C30A over east in Carabel, correct?
That's correct, and this
Yeah.
is actually our last Hurricane Michael recovery project, and the
Mr.
reason why.
Chairman, sorry, did we vote on that?
We have
No,
not.
Oh,
voted.
sorry,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
my bad. I'm ready to go. Sorry, it's been one of those days and it will be all day long.
Yep.
Any more discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Please proceed, Ms. Aaron.
Okay, this is our last Hurricane Michael recovery project, and one reason why this one has taken so long is because that there was a duplication in the GPS coordinates made by the FEMA representatives. So there is also, there was another project that was actually to the west of Apalachicola, the C30 east and west washouts going that direction. And then Gulf Avenue in Carabel is also noted as being C30, and there were also some washouts there. So the, unfortunately, the FEMA actually duplicated the GPS coordinates, and we've been arguing back and forth with them that, no, it was a different location. The photos are obviously of a different site. And then also they duplicated some of the quantities with the other project as well. So one thing that we're doing, we're trying to get it straight with FEMA. We are going ahead and going out for construction bids, and then we will use the quantities here to get back with them. So we may not be able to award right away on this project. It's just gonna take getting approval from FEMA to finally make it happen. Okay, and our first one is Pygate Asphalt and Site Work LLC from Crawfordville. Let's see, this one also has a bid alternate item. There is only one bid alternate, so I can go ahead and read that as well. The total base bid is $235,657.95. Again, total base bid, $235,657.95. And the bid alternate is $7,425. Again, $7,425. And the bid bond is attached. And this next bid is North Florida Construction of Clarksville, Florida. Okay, bid bond is included. Total base bid, $274,859. $274,859. Bid alternate, $3,800. Bid alternate, $3,800. And with these, they will also need to be released to the county engineers, Dewberry and Associates, for review and recommendation.
Okay, bid bond?
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right, so we have a motion to approve turning this over to the engineer by Commissioner Sanders.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Ward. Any discussion?
Okay.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous.
Okay, and our next one is actually a request for proposal for auditing services. One thing to note on this one that the responses will actually be released to an audit review committee. And that committee will be scoring these packets. And also, you know, they'll have one meeting prior to your next meeting to kind of discuss the outcome, and then to deliver the recommendation to you all with the ranking results. But the audit review committee will be made up of each one of the constitutional officers, as well as the chairman of the board. First one is going to be Lanigan and Associates. It's like of Tallahassee, Florida. And that's Lanigan and Associates, and Rob Roberson and Associates is apparently the audit coordinator. Let's see, so for that one, we will just be reading off who the responses were from.
Okay, so there's no amount.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, they actually were supposed to put a proposal amount in as far as the cost is concerned, but that's actually something that will be reviewed by the audit committee.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right.
Okay, the next one is from, let's see, Malden and Jenkins, and they are located in Bradenton, Florida. And this last one is, let's see, James Moore and Company. And they are located in, let's see, looks like Daytona Beach.
All right, so we just need a motion to approve.
Yep, motion to approve releasing these to the audit review committee.
Motion to approve to turn this over to the review committee.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Sanders, second by Commissioner Amison. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. All right, we have one more, correct?
That's correct.
All right,
Yep. The last one, it is the request for qualifications for general professional engineering services. Our first one is going to be Gorta Moeller Engineering Incorporated, and this is simply an RFQ. So the only thing that we're gonna do is open them up, and the review committee for this one will be Michael Marone, myself, and Mark Currington, as far as for ranking of the engineering firms. Unless you all have any other ideas.
well, I'm
For
not
review.
volunteering myself for Commissioner Sanders, so I think we're good. Go ahead, please proceed.
Okay, Gort Moeller Engineering, and they are located in Panama City Beach, Florida. Okay, this next one is Madrid CPWG, and they are located in Bluntstown, Florida.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say Aaron's practicing for Christmas opening.
There you go. Plenty of practice today.
This next one is, let's see, Dewberry and Associates from Port St. Joe, Florida. And this one is from, let's see, Kissinger Campo and Associates. They're located Tallahassee.
Okay.
They were very interested in keeping it very secure.
Yes.
Okay, and that concludes our openings for today.
So we need a motion to
Yes.
send those to
Yeah,
you
motion
guys?
to
I'll
release.
make that motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Amison, to turn this over to the review committee that's been stated for recommendation to the board. Any discussion before we vote? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Ms. Aaron, do you have your computer with you?
I do not.
Okay, where you want us to go to, or you want us to take a
I'm
break?
gonna say we take a break, because Dr. Brooks should be here shortly.
Okay, because that's the only other thing we have before we get to you guys, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Man.
All right. So let's take a recess till 10. Clerk Maxwell, you good? Okay. Franklin County, Board of County Commissioners now back in session. We're going to skip an agenda. Mr. Morone, to your report, if you would
Okay.
please proceed.
The Commissioners, on page 16 of the packet in front of you. First item is regarding the Apalachicola Fire Department, a repeater. At your August 16, 2022 regular meeting, the board approved a $13,784.38 quote for a new repeater for the Apalachicola Volunteer Fire Department. The purchase and installation of this repeater was delayed due to the relocation of the Duke Energy Tower, which Schuler is kind of working with Duke, the property swap. I received notice from Mr. Travis Wade, city manager, that the city is ready to proceed with the installation. However, the cost of the purchase and installation of the repeater is now $38,473. Now, the difference, I looked at the quote, and I'm going to verify with Mr. Wade. I haven't had a chance to do that, but looking at the quote, I think they're getting a repeater that will be compatible with the system that we are applying for through Triumph, like what Wakulla County did for a county-wide system. So Williams Communications realized what we were doing, and they upgraded the repeater for that. I think that's the added cost for it. I'm almost sure, but I'll verify with Mr. Wade. If it's not, I'll let you know. So, I recommend paying for the repeater from the CRA funds that returned to the county from the city of Apalachicola after it was discovered that the city of Apalachicola CRA was no longer active. I don't know if you guys remember that, a couple of years ago. So I just need board action to authorize the purchase of the new repeater for the city's volunteer fire department at a total cost of $38,473. And we will pay for it from the Apalachicola, I'm sorry, I keep saying it, but the CRA funds that were returned to us from the city of Apalachicola.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, sir. What's your question?
Should we just wait until we confirm whether or not this is gonna be,
Commissioner, I don't think they're gonna go back to the $13,000 repeater.
well, I understand what I'm saying is this gonna be compatible
With the system?
Yeah, I mean, can we get a confirmation on that before we?
Okay, you can approve it contingent, and if it's not, then I'll come back to the board about it. I'm almost certain it's what it is. Because I've been in discussions with Williams Communication about our project, and so they were fully aware of what we're trying to do. But it's up to the board. You can either do it contingent, or I can put it back on my report in 2 weeks from today. Whichever way you guys are more comfortable with.
I say just put it back on your report and let's look at it now. I mean,
Okay.
We're not, I mean, it's not anything that's imminent, is it? Out of curiosity.
No, Mr. Wade did not indicate that it was. And to some degree, I just let time get away from me before I could reach out to him, what it is. So, I'll just delay action until December 5th. That's our next meeting. Yes.
So we're just waiting to make sure that it's
Compatible.
compatible with what we're moving toward.
Okay.
And, Mr. Chairman, just,
Yes.
the reason why is it just seems like it goes back like our securities. You know, we got this company doing this camera, this, if we get it all consolidated, it'll just run a lot smoother.
Oh, it
And that's the
will.
reason why.
Yes.
that Just to
No,
know
it's the
where
best way to
my
move
mind's
forward.
at on that. I'm not trying to
Mhm.
drag something out. I just wanna make
Yeah.
sure that we're staying in everything's under the same umbrella, so to
Yeah,
speak.
no, that's good. Nobody accused us of moving fast, sir.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I can ask Mr. Morone something, you mentioned the relocation of the Duke Energy Tower that I've recently begun discussing with Danny Collins. Is this purchase contingent upon the decision for the land swap for them to decide to rebuild
I think
the
it
new
is.
tower?
Well,
Because we're in the beginning stages of this, and the
Well,
meeting
now-
that was originally scheduled didn't happen. They're having, I guess, some internal scheduling issues with Duke Energy. I followed up with Danny Collins about this yesterday.
Yeah.
And basically his inquiry was, for lack of a better phrase, you know, how urgent is it for us to get this scheduled, trying to figure out how much he needs to move his people internally to have this meeting between myself and their staff. So, I mean, is
Yeah,
this
no,
purchase tied to
yes,
the
that'll
board
be-
making a decision on the land swap, I guess is.
Travis question, because
Yeah.
Travis had said in the beginning, he would not send me another quote until he was sure of the repeater that they would need for the install on the new tower.
Gotcha.
So,
This is,
if,
But,
if
but
you're
that's
telling
ultimately
me,
where you want to put it is in the new location though, correct?
yes, if.
And not at the
That's what-
airport.
Yes, it is.
That's what it
Yeah.
sounded, that's why, it sounded like they were all tied together. May I call Travis and just
Yeah,
chat
that'd
with
be
him?
great.
and
Yeah,
Find out
'cause-
how this purchase may or may not be tied to a potential land swap and the location for a tower rebuild. It's really not a relocation, it's a tower rebuild is the way I
Yeah,
understand it.
so, and I was hoping that Travis said he wouldn't send it until they knew exactly, you know, where they would put it, how much it would cost. And so I don't know if they have the design of the tower already approved, they're just trying to work out the location. But
Okay.
this is even more, now I
Yeah,
totally
it
agree with
is.
Commissioner
It is.
Amison, we need to, the three of us, you, me, and Travis need to work all this out to see where we are.
Okay, cool.
Exactly. Yeah,
All right, and then when y'all get it worked out, y'all just bring it back. to
Yes,
us
sir, I
at the
will.
appropriate time.
can I just say an
Yes.
observation? I just wanna share something. If you look, this board approved something back in 22 for $13,784. Now to come back a year later and needing that, that's how much the, you know, the repeaters are.
Oh, the cost. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, but that's how much, change is happening that
Yep.
fast on that stuff.
Yes.
Yep.
That's how, I mean, this is the reason why, because that's no longer good to be able to use that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, eventually, maybe we will get some good service down here. so.
yeah, and I think the problem was when they gave the one back in 22, they were replacing exactly what they, what
And
was
they
there
didn't look
before.
out for the future.
There you go. And now they are.
Yep.
Okay, well, we'll table that and I'll just reschedule that and we'll put
Okay.
it back on, once we have all these specifics worked out. Item number 2, a SHIP client located at 34 3rd Street in East Point contacted staff regarding a warranty issue on his heater, his HVAC system. I contacted Community Action. They are your SHIP administrators about this matter, and it was determined that the best way to resolve the issue was a replacement of the unit using SHIP emergency repair funding. So with SHIP, you have 3, you used to have 4, now you have 3 types of funding, if I remember correctly. You have the down payment assistance, you have full rehab, and then you have emergency repairs. Those are the 3. Emergency repairs are just like a quick fix, HVAC, electrical, something to that effect. Since the client still has an active lien for the original rehab project, Community Action would like the board authorization to allow the use of SHIP emergency repair funding to pay the $5,342 invoice to replace the unit. So I would need board action. Now, Commissioner, I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna say this off the cuff. I did SHIP quite a few years. I don't think the board ever put a restriction like this, but Community Action, they're new to SHIP. They just feel better that I have something in the board minutes that you guys approved this. One didn't disqualify you from getting the other. Because, no, I could go into a whole history of SHIP, but I won't. But yeah, so I need board action to authorize your SHIP administrator, Community Action, to pay that invoice from the SHIP emergency repair funds to resolve this warranty issue for the HVAC unit at 24 3rd Street in East Point. The complaint came to me, when we were having that initial cold snap, and to be perfectly honest, what was happening is the fuses in the house just kept blowing every time they turned on the heater. So that was an emergency. I really needed to get that repaired as soon as possible, so that something worse, if you know what I mean, didn't happen at that time.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Sanders. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Please proceed, sir.
All right, Commissioners, so let's reach back in history again. Roy Baker, Opportunity Florida, informed Chairman Jones that the Tallahassee International Airport is in the final stage of applying for a foreign trade zone designation. Mr. Chairman, you want me to stop here and you explain the history of that?
You probably know as much about it as I do, but.
The trade, the
yeah,
whole,
But they've been trying they've been working through the process for several years now to add a foreign trade zone designation to the Tallahassee Regional Airport. And they're almost to the end of it, and the letter we gave them is significantly aged. So
Yes,
they're just asking for an
2017.
updated letter.
yes,
But it's also gonna give us the ability to kind of choose, because I think Panama City's already got the designation, and Tallahassee's in the process of finalizing it. So if we ever get to a place of needing to join one of those foreign trade zones with our regional airport, we would have that opportunity.
Yes. And I think this letter and the information, the postcard would go excellent when we hand it over to Commissioner Amison when he has that meeting with Triumph on December 8th to say, hey, look, we have this also going on, you know,
Yes.
with the county and with the airport,
Yep.
et cetera, in the zone. So, attached is a postcard of the benefits. All this is no cost to the county. And so, I've already said that. So hopefully, I just need board action to authorize the chairman's signature on the updated letter of support to the Tallahassee International Airport Foreign Trade Zone application.
So moved.
Okay, motion to approve by Commissioner Amison,
Second.
second by Commissioner Ward. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous.
Item 4, Chairman Jones received a letter of interest from the Colonel George R. Watkins, not our George Watkins here locally. He's the commander for the Tyndall Air Force Base in support of a possible 8,000-foot runway extension at the county's airport. I'll pause here. Commissioner Amison, do you want to kind of rehash that meeting that you had with the commander prior to sending this letter? I put you in the spot, didn't I?
No, I mean, as y'all know, me and the chairman of the AOED board went over, had a discussion with the commander at Tyndall about possible interest, and our motivation in this was try to get a letter of support
Yep.
to go to Triumph, or along with this,
Yes.
you know, with other things, to try to open us up into some avenues about tapping that Triumph fund. But it's, you know, basically what the commander said is Apalachicola Airport would be, and it would be attractive to them for an emergency environment. So in other words, if they've got storm over there in Tyndall where they couldn't get the airplanes in or whatnot, they could set them down till the storm passes and then take off. As far as doing any kind of operations out of here, that's nothing that they would really need. But it's really good to have an emergency area that's attractive to them because they don't have that, especially being this convenient, this close. Saves on fuel, stuff like that. But you know, and then again, down the road, we could be looking at some potential fueling monies and stuff. I mean, it's just a really good meeting with them. It's something I think it would go far as support with the continued conversations we're gonna have with Triumph. That's about all I got with it.
Mr. Chairman, with that, for 8,000 feet extension of a runway, that can open up other economic opportunities for our airport in terms of freight,
Yes.
right? Because don't you have to have a certain width of a runway to, say, for like Amazon or UPS or
Yep.
some of those distributors to be able to come in and, I think it's a great idea. I'm all for it, because it could definitely provide an opportunity for economic growth, continued economic growth. So I'll make a motion to approve this.
Okay.
I know that this letter will also be handed, the letter and the response will be handed to Commissioner Amison for that same meeting on December 8th with Triumph.
So we have a motion to approve, we have a second. Motion was by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Sanders. Any discussion?
Just a quick one. You know, that now that we've gotten into this, keep in mind, this is more so for the public, but, information, but this is like the really, really infant stages of this. That 8,000 square foot extension, is gonna be very costly, and that's why we would, you know, would definitely have to have a Triumph support with that. But, I think John Collins has come back now and said that I guess the hardness, I don't know if I'm using the correct terminology,
Yes,
Ted could
the
probably,
thickness of it.
but you know, that's a factor too. So this is really infantile stages of this. This is just discussion, but this is a way that we can have these discussions and possibly, as I said before, get our hands on some of that money that nobody seems to let go of ours that we got there.
Well, the improvements that we're speaking of, going 8,000, all of it's has a specific end goal in mind. So the 8,000 feet also includes making the runway thicker. There's a mathematic formula that was explained to me when we first started having this discussion that I don't remember, but it requires a certain hardening of the runway, and it's going to require more aprons be added to the side of it, kind of like Commissioner Sanders was talking about with the road. It's gonna take a lot of traffic, so it needs them wider, so, you know, beside the road, it needs to be wider. So it includes all of that, but it is specifically to address, not only could Tyndall use it, but there could be,
Oh,
you know,
definitely, yeah.
there could be a American Eagle flight that holds 20 people. You know what I mean? There could be things like that.
We call
That
it the
could be
little
added.
hop lights,
Yeah,
little short hop
exactly.
lights.
Yeah.
That currently we can't, that's not possible today, you know.
Can I say something? Mr.
Yes, ma'am.
Chairman? If y'all remember, before I got on board and even after I got on board, I brought up to this board about the project that they're doing at the Tallahassee Regional Airport,
Alpha.
Project Alpha. And I want, if Otis can, I want you looking into that, because that's a big thing would be a big thing if we could be a drop-off hub.
Yes.
But the thing, Mr. Berry,
Uh-huh.
yeah, me and him discussed it, and I'm gonna bring that up.
Okay,
and
well,
try-
do that, because I don't know how far they've gotten on that, but you got, I'm always pushing the trade schools at the school out here. I think that is one of the most wonderful things that we've ever seen for Franklin County, for the, you know, kids. But if we could do that and you got 8,000 foot more runway, you could do that with some of the bigger planes. And put some money out there, put some jobs out there. You know how Mr. Noah was, I want some jobs out there at that airport.
That's right.
That's what he said, and that, you know, and I'd like to see that come through. If it don't get nothing else done, I'd like to see that come through, so his wish would be done. But thank you, Commissioner Otis.
Listen, so I also want to get some input back from you guys. So I want to read just some of the stuff I wrote down, thinking about how to not necessarily respond to the colonel, because that is what I want to do, is respond to the colonel. But I see that we could potentially send out a letter or have a letter for Commissioner Amison to also be ready for some of the partners involved in this region. And we can include some of these thoughts in with the colonel, but I want to read this to you guys and just kind of get your input. Franklin County is actively looking to replace jobs and diversify our economy due to the current closure of Apalachicola Bay oyster harvesting. Our primary focus in these efforts to improve opportunities for our residents has been the KAAF Apalachicola Regional Airport. Franklin County is engaged with all agencies to create jobs and industry at our airport. In 2022, and I believe it's right now, it might even been 21, Franklin County updated its airport master plan with a vision of the future. One of the improvements we're involved in includes an educational and industrial box hangar complex. We have already received 10% of the total funding of this $8 million project from FDOT. The most exciting element of our updated master plan is extension of runway 1432 to 8,000 total feet. This forward-thinking element would make it possible to attract additional users and industries at our airport. Our Airport and Economic Advisory Board has communicated with regional partners and received a response from Tyndall Air Force Base. Tyndall has expressed interest in using KAF Airport for critical training and countermeasures, and I'm sharing this, and this would be part that would be going from the colonel. I would also include in this a letter from the colonel, the base commander at Tyndall Air Force Base, which expressed that interest. And we recognize we need guidance and financial assistance to achieve our goals, which will benefit the citizens of Franklin County and of our region. But I know that some of that needs to be abstracted, and actually, we do need to send a thank you letter in response to the commander, to the colonel. I just want to get some of y'all's thoughts on that.
I think it sounds great.
Well, that's what we're working on to do then.
Okay.
All right, so any more discussion before we vote? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous.
All right, Commissioner, this is more of a discussion item, but it's excellent news as far as I'm concerned. So, you know, the board directed me to create a request for proposals for a consultant to assist the board with determining the future of Weems Memorial Hospital. So for the last few weeks, I've been searching online, had discussions with individuals, you know, especially those that have healthcare experience, some even with rural hospitals. These discussions, research led me to a conversation with Mrs. Mary C. Mayhew. Mrs. Mayhew, and I attached her biography, is the president and CEO of Florida Hospital Association, of which Weems is a member. Ms. Mayhew is very familiar with Weems and issues facing rural hospitals. That knowledge and discussion with Ms. Mayhew will have a lot of good advice and options for the board to consider regarding the future direction of Weems. Ms. Mayhew is scheduled to appear before the board at your February 6, 2024 regular meeting. However, prior to that meeting, she would like to meet with each of you to discuss your concerns and questions regarding Weems so that her February 6th presentation is structured and well-planned. Would you prefer to meet with Ms. Mayhew in December or January? And you don't have to answer right now, just look at your calendars and send me an email, and let's get, and they will be virtual. She won't be able to travel, back and forth for different ones, but she really wants to talk to you guys. She really does, as a whole and individually. Has a lot of good things to say. And I'll say this to you, based on conversations with her and a few other people, your consultant might end up, depending on what direction the board wants to go in, it might just end up being an attorney that specializes in rural hospitals and healthcare that will partner with Attorney Schuler, and that's the discussions you might end up having with that specific individual. It might not be a consultant as we know it traditionally. That's where you might end up, but that's a discussion to have after you have your meeting with Ms. Mayhew and she appears before the board.
Well, that was the reason why I included in my motion when we did that. That was the reason why I included a medical,
Yes.
a medical attorney
Yes.
that's used to the hospital stuff.
Yes.
And stuff. So we don't lose something in the crack.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And,
So I'll just let you know, when you get a chance, send me some dates that you're open so I can schedule with her and set up those meetings. Attached is the Northwest Florida Health Network. That they sent a notification that Franklin County will receive $84,578.14 from the state of Florida opioid settlement, which was secured by Attorney General Ashley Moody. The Northwest Florida Health Network, they'll serve as the administrator over these funds between the state and Franklin County. Mrs. Erin Griffith, Ms. Ginger Coulter from the Sheriff's Department, and I met with Ms. Tracy Moore of NWFHN to discuss the possibility of using the funds at the county jail. She is looking at those options. Mrs. Moore is. We discussed during our meeting, and let us know if that's appropriate use of the funds. Once we get their approval, then we'll bring it as a spending plan to this board for your approval, for your review and approval. But that's where we are with the process.
I want to ask a question, Mr. Morone.
Sir.
If it's for the opioid settlement, wouldn't it be a more appropriate use to use it for the rehab facilities located here in the county now?
You could, but one of the things the sheriff asked from early on, and he's been talking to Mr. Mike Watkins from NWF, is that to get an x-ray machine at the jail that would be able to detect and prevent any drugs coming into the jail. So that's the number one project that we're asking them to verify that we can use the funds for at the jail. Because I think, from what Ginger explained, the cost for one of those machines is somewhere, let's just say $140,000, $140,000. So we'll put the, we're electing if we could use the 86 towards that.
Mr. Chairman, sorry not to interrupt, Michael.
Yes, ma'am.
But do they realize what entails an x-ray machine? I don't think they do.
84,000.
You have to, you have a radiation. You have to wear a dosimeter that detects radiation. You're affecting the person being arrested. You're affecting anybody that's remotely close to where that emission of the x-ray particles are going.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to just getting an x-ray machine than just saying, we're gonna get an x-ray machine. That's 85 grand, I don't think it's gonna touch that.
The cost? Okay.
And you have to get certifications. I don't know if it's different for a jail versus, say, a hospital setting, but you're still emanating that radiation that's gonna be affecting whoever's around the area. So, again, I would definitely, before you go into, look into that and research that,
Actually-
because that's that's not just saying, let's go get an x-ray machine to detect drugs with people coming into the jail. It's a lot more to it than just that.
So what I'm gonna do is to have the sheriff make a presentation about what the machine he wants and what it entails.
Okay.
And the total cost. I think that answers everybody's questions.
I don't know if they've already started doing research on it, or if that's just a thought, but that's definitely something that needs to be looked into. Just my opinion, sorry.
Okay.
Just my,
I would really like him to have that presentation before Northwest Florida comes back with a okay or not okay, one way or the other, so let
Well-
me know.
And, Mr. Chairman, if you
Yep.
don't mind,
No, you-
I'd like to see some kind of seminars or some kind of awareness. All the people that is on the opioid, it's not just the ones that's in the jail. We've got people out here among the citizenry of Franklin County that need to be really aware of that. Like,
Yeah.
maybe it can go through the health department or through the schools or something. We gotta do something about that.
And this is not your only.
We got money.
This is not your only shot. Apparently this funding, you'll get it somewhere 10, 15 years, maybe a little bit longer. But the problem is, they don't know how much we'll get. It'll be less than this, but they can't tell us what we'll be getting next year. That's the, so it's kinda hard to plan and to budget for future funding from this settlement, not knowing how much you're getting,
What?
you know?
Well, do you know what the whole settlement was, the amount of the whole settlement? Do you know that?
Oh, not off the top of my head, something.
I know it was
no.
in excess of 100. I remember getting that email.
Yes.
And it was in excess of, I believe, 100 grand, but again, I don't know the exact.
I mean, you
amount.
mean like statewide, like what the
No,
entire
come
state?
for us.
Oh, just for the county?
Yeah.
I'll
They
have
had
to
it
check.
listed on that
Yeah.
Yeah,
one
Long
report
email.
they
It was like
sent out,
a
yeah.
500-page.
Yes.
yeah.
But I was just saying,
Document.
you know,
Well,
I've saw too many people hurt with that stuff.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
too many families.
That's it.
Broken up.
I mean, I'd rather see something trying to maybe if we can just stop one person from, you know, using it,
Mhm.
you know, my thing. But anyway,
So,
that's just my thought.
well, okay. But if you guys do.
The only way you're gonna stop it is through education with the
That's what I'm
youth, with
saying.
the kids.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you can keep beating that dead horse.
It's
I
gonna be
mean,
a
look at it,
continu- it's
just
gonna be a
catch and release, catch and release, catch and release, that's not doing anything. It hadn't done anything with any of it. The only way you're gonna ever, you know, win that battle is through the education and teaching kids, you know, this is what it looks like.
And
You know, this is your life right here.
yeah, and break that cycle
Mhm.
of it, because so many of the families, they had it before them, they saw it done, so they took it up, now you're seeing the kids come.
Well, a lot of
Yeah.
kids' cases, that's normal life. That's what a
Yeah.
normal life looks
Vicious
like.
cycle.
Yeah.
And the only way you're gonna, intervene with that is through education and show them, hey, this is,
Mm.
That is,
Too much.
that is really sad
yeah.
to say that that's a normal life for a child, but it's the truth. I get that.
We've
but it's-
watched it our whole lives around
We
here.
sure have, yeah. But is everybody's good with the sheriff coming to make a presentation of what he would
Yep.
like, out of this? Okay, I'll try and get him in the next meeting or the one after
You
that.
need to wait and see if the funding's qualified for that use first. Might be premature
That's a
without
good
knowing
idea.
that.
They acted like it was, but,
Oh, okay.
let me talk to Ms. Moore first and then I'll talk to the sheriff.
Okay, 'cause I thought that was still a question.
It
that
is,
needs
it
to be
is,
answered.
it is, but apparently the sheriff's been having these long discussions with, Mr. Mike, is Watkins his name for NWF, and he kinda gave him some reassurance that it probably is, so I'll
Mr. Chairman,
talk
I
to
just
both
got
of
a
them and see.
quick question. Are you sure it's an X-ray machine? Or is it like TSA where you go in there and?
Yeah, because
You know,
X-ray,
because-
Maybe I
You-
said the
you
wrong,
probably
well,
compare-
maybe they used the wrong term when we had the meeting, and it's not truly an X-ray machine, but I'll find out exactly what the true term is and let you guys know.
Okay.
But I still think commissioners, I mean, Commissioner Ward had a very good point. No matter what it is, he still needs to come and talk to the
Yeah.
county about it before you guys agree to use the money in that direction anyway, so,
Yeah, I would imagine it'd be something more like what you go through at the airport,
yeah,
because they have a way of seeing inside your bag.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
So maybe
It's
that,
a type of X-ray, but it's not.
yeah.
medical.
it's not emitting radiation.
Right.
Yeah, it's not
It's
a,
dangerous
like
to
a medical
everybody.
X-ray.
Right,
machine,
right.
Let me just say that, but yeah, I'll have them, I think Commissioner Sanders has a good point too, that the sheriff needs to kind of have a dialogue with you guys that, okay, so whatever the machine is, I'd like to do this, but in the future, like there's some programs too, you know,
That's-
you see, so, yeah, so it's more than just a machine. I just think we need to talk about how we're gonna spend this money in future years. as we get on
Yeah,
the
we gotta
road.
figure out how to keep them from getting,
Get to the jail.
having to go through the machine.
Right, right.
Yes.
That's right.
That's right, Otter.
Yeah, and, speaking of the sheriff, I just wanted to put, because we got the press release about the Saving Life Award you also get from Northwest Florida Health Network. That press release is there. Outside, I don't know if you've seen, there's an older white van that's been parked there for a few weeks now, and if you see that is the van that I talked to Ms. Val Webb this morning. That is the van for ECCC. The sheriff donated that van to them to assist with transportation of the seniors and supplies to them. I have the title in the office, I have the keys to the van, so they could pick it up and transfer ownership as soon as she said they'd probably come forward next week. And I don't know, well, commissioners that have, anybody drove by the garden club over in Carabel, you see the landscape is really clean. That company did a good job cleaning up. Our next step is to figure out, we gotta get water and power there so that we can send a cleanup crew inside to clean it up. And I told Ms. Webb this morning that we're gonna talk, so I'm gonna talk to Lisa Bretz here within the next couple of weeks about, you know, who pays for what, how it's funding, so I can get it all lined up before we proceed.
I know people are excited for it to open back up
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, about, gotten some positive response there. Also, as you look at your calendars, Carl Riggs and Ingram, Brian Hall would like to, anytime during the week of December 11th, again, he could meet with you in person or virtually, whichever is more comfortable for you, to discuss the finances for the EMS and the clinics. I will let Commissioner Ward, since she brought all the calendars back for you, take over with the FAC calendar and tell us what month we are.
Well, you know, at the conference, they unveiled the FAC, Florida Association of Counties calendar, and there's 67 counties in the state of Florida, and of course, I think a total of 15 made it. You got the front cover and the back cover, and out of the 67 counties, there were a lot of submissions. I think he said 600 submissions. There was a lot. Because, you know, each county, you know, did one, but the gentleman that, if you would hand me a calendar, I got him, but I didn't bring one for myself. Thank you.
We
So,
had
so the
Calendars everywhere.
Oh, everywhere.
We prepared.
Oh, I got as many as I could get. So the submission was, the photo credit goes to Mr. Jeff Talbert. I don't know where he's from or anything, but, if you can see, we're March, and it's of the St. George Island Lighthouse. So, I just think it's pretty impressive that the past 2 years in a row, our county, our little tiny small rural county has been featured on a statewide calendar with 67 counties competing, so
Yeah.
just think that's pretty impressive. They are gonna send one out to each commissioner in the mail, but I brought extra copies too, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So, yep, it was pretty neat.
Cool. And if anybody is inclined that you have somebody who wants to buy one, I put a link on my report. You can send them there to purchase calendar. Speaking of FAC, Legislative Day is January 17th in Tallahassee. Let Courtney know as soon as possible if you're planning to attend. We've all had the nightmares of accommodations and arrangements in Tallahassee.
Oh, yeah.
The
So,
sooner we do that, the better.
yes.
I'll add me to that list because, Mr. Chairman, sorry, the conference that I went to last week was legislative conference, and everything that we voted on, a lot of it has to do, we actually, Franklin County was one of the ones that submitted a legislative request, so it's very important, I feel like, that we go up there, so I've already made arrangements with my schedule to be going up there for this, so,
Okay.
so add me to the list.
Sure will.
Because I
Let
think it's
Courtney know.
very important that symmetry continues and that continuity continues.
Okay.
Can't go down there and make all these recommendations and then not go to the state and push for it. So definitely need to go up there and push and push.
That's right,
And,
you gotta,
She's learning.
I will.
gotta be constant with that pressure.
We do. And we do have the lobbyists now, you know, for the whole time, so I think that's good. But I really want to make sure that we get in to see our representatives though as well. Last year we didn't
Yeah, that
get
didn't
a
go
chance,
too
it
well.
didn't go too well. So I
No.
want to make sure that we have time set aside to meet with Representative Schoaf and Senator Simon.
Okay,
Add me to that list as well, sir.
okay. Then Rural Counties Day is the 24th to the 25th. That's not a FAC thing, but that's a thing where you have to set up a tent.
That is very important.
It is. Now, I will say to you, Commissioner, like you guys to think about this. We have to probably talk to the lobbyists about this, how important it is. Now, we don't have the staff to man or set up a tent. So I don't know, can we maybe reach out to John at the chamber to help us out with something like that? Or, so I need you guys to think that through, and let's have a discussion about, how we set that up. But I believe, Mr. Chairman, the lobbyists did tell us last year how important that actually is.
It is very important.
And it's been a while since we've actually been to that.
Yes,
so-
and I'm sorry, I know who said it, wasn't the lobbyist. Commissioner Ward, it was Chris Doolin. I think Chris reached out to me and said, hey, you guys, that's, so.
We used to do it.
Yes, so,
We
anyway,
used to do it.
so we'll discuss that, more so, as soon as we can, probably after after the Thanksgiving holidays. And your next regular meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, December 5th at 9 a.m. And then at 5 o'clock, you have the St. George Island Golf Cart Ordinance, discussion of the St. George Island Golf Cart Ordinance and the use of low-speed vehicles on St. George Island here at 5 o'clock. That, I talked to the chairman, he was okay with me advertising it. I didn't send, I don't send workshops to the paper, but he was good with us advertising it on the website. I sent it as a PSA to both the newspaper and the radio. I'm announcing it now, it's also on the headlines page on the website. However, I will probably advertise that other workshop we scheduled this morning about that property, because I think that's a higher, some more, I wanna say it. I think a lot more people are gonna be paying attention than I wanna know about that, so I will advertise,
We're gonna
paid
have a full
advertising.
house is what you're saying.
Yeah, okay.
I
I was
think
trying
we have a
to
full
find
house
a way
for both of
around that, saying that, Commissioner Emerson, but yeah,
It
okay.
is what it is.
It is what it is.
Can I ask you something, Michael?
Yes, ma'am.
Since we just mentioned it. Is that the old basin right in there?
Yes,
Across from Harry Hayes.
yes. That's it.
And it
I
was
lived
up
on
to
that.
Cat Point, which I'm quite sure.
Yes, that's the, yeah, that's tied to the litigation that has kept Attorney.
How many,
Oh. Yeah, thank
That's
you.
a.
Yes, it's that same piece of property.
Okay, yeah,
It's the
that's
same
a piece of
property
property.
though.
Yes.
On another note, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
changing the subject, so, we talked in the past, and I've talked to you about it, about a county Facebook page. I know there's legalities with it, we have to be careful, but every county, and I network when I go to these conferences, and it seems like everybody has Facebook
Yeah.
now and social media, and I feel like, with the paper, we legally have to advertise, but I think it's a good idea because let's face it, who buys a newspaper nowadays? I know there's some old school people out there still that buys a newspaper, but most people get on social media and get their news that way. So every advertisement that we do for a job or these workshops or the meetings or anything of that nature, I just feel it's imperative and important for transparency. And then maybe looking for, I know we talked about a PIO in the past, but I just think moving forward that we may need to look at doing something like that.
Funny you might say that. So, we were advertising for two positions in there. One would be, basically someone that would help with coordinating with zoning and help the building department, more so with just, routing calls and so forth and so on. So, and they have selected a person, and so that person's gonna start, I gotta double check with Steve, sometime in December, I believe. So that is my plan. So, maybe if we're gonna, let's discuss. What I'm trying to work through in my mind, we talked to Courtney, I've talked to Steve. This person, I told them when they interview, make sure they interview in mind with that this person could take over as much of zoning, all the detailed stuff that Courtney has to do with zoning as much as possible. Cause I would like to move Courtney more into an administrative assistant position, which will entail, what you're talking about. Having a Facebook page, she will still be the administrator over, when we get a code enforcement, because I want the officer taking directions from what the complaints that Courtney receives and reporting back and forth, and some other things that I'll discuss early next year too that I would like her to do, rather than not say now. So, the Facebook page, like I said, was one of them, but I'll say this to the board. I would prefer if we start off with a Facebook page, commissioners, I wanna do it where we turn off comments for now, until we get more comfortable with it and with the interaction, because I want to treat the Facebook page more one way. We are disseminating information. I don't wanna get into back and forth and people, because I just, for a number of reasons, and for record retention also. Yeah.
My recommendation is keep the commentary just turned off as just for informational purposes
Yes,
only.
that is, I just want to make sure the board is
Clerk
that.
had her hand raised.
Well, oh, when the clerk talks, that means I'm in trouble.
It's all good.
Well, I was just gonna say, you have to archive your social media.
Yes.
And I actually just retained, a business to archive all of my social media on Facebook.
Yes.
So that's something to keep in mind as well.
Yep. Yeah, the school has the same thing on their social media stuff.
Yeah.
I know because I have run for years, page, it's not really a school page, but it has to do with the basketball program.
Yeah.
And, several years ago, they said, well, you know, we need to do something with that page. I said, well, I'm fine if you wanna, if you'll send me a link, I'll sign up through your software. I said, but I've been doing this page now for over a decade. I'd really like to keep it. Cause again, it's not an official page, it's just a, you know what I mean, something about basketball in particular. But they do the same thing, it tracks. But they told me, they said, look, this software actually tracks. If you were typing out a response you were gonna send to somebody and you delete it, it's still tracking it. It's tracking everything. So if somebody goes on there and blasts something about the basketball team on social media and then deletes it later, it still shows up.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it does archive it.
Well, I got hacked a while back, and I ain't staying on that site. So mine is closed.
FYI.
Well,
Why?
Mr. Brown, I would like to see if we're gonna move in that direction, whether it's Ms. Courtney or whoever winds up doing it, I do think they need to go have some PIO training
Yes.
before we start disseminating information. I mean, it's easy enough, but I just think it's the appropriate thing to do.
That's, okay.
And Mr. Chairman, I've got one more thing. So I know we commissioners get emails from the Small County Coalition, and I spoke to Mr. Chris Doolin, who is in charge of all that down south. And I'm sure you guys opened up your emails yesterday, I believe is when he sent it. There was a nice little write-up about Commissioner Lockley. And if you could, I'd like that forwarded to his family, so they can
Okay.
have it, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of a little small blurb, but, he told me he was gonna do it when we were at the conference. And he's gonna try to make it to his services, but, he couldn't promise that, but, I'd like that to be shared with, because they don't get
Okay.
those emails.
They don't.
So I'd like that shared with the
I
family,
sure will.
if you don't mind.
And when you find out why I'm still not getting his,
With Chris's, I'll tell him again, okay.
I may have him blocked, but that's a joke between
You might already know the answer, that's what it sounds like.
That's a joke between me and Chris, now, he knows that.
Okay.
But no,
Lord.
I don't know how to block something, so I wouldn't worry about it. you know.
Okay. But yes.
Yeah, cause
Commissioner-
if it's got something on there about Mr. Noah, I'd like to see that.
I can forward it, well, you
Yeah.
forward it to her.
Forward it to me,
I sure will.
Michael.
I will. But Commissioner Ward, I'm glad we're on the same page with that. And I've had that same discussion with other commissioners too, about the Facebook page. We just needed somebody that has the time to just, handle it. And Commissioners, that is the end of my report, and I believe I see Dr. Brooks out there. And Dr. Brooks, the laptop your presentation is ready.
Thank you. I apologize for not coming in earlier. I was working from home this morning and went out to get my car and it had a flat. So that was a great start to the day at 8:30. Okay, so thank you for entertaining this presentation. It's just a quick update on some of the work that we've been doing, and then I'm going to talk about our Community Advisory Board progress. So let's see, how do I forward this, Michael? Doesn't seem to want to go
The
down.
arrow, either
And
the down arrow or the,
it not playing.
no? Did it freeze up on me?
Maybe it went to sleep waiting for me.
Probably what happened. Let me go back while you. It went to sleep and I think it locked up. Any arrows?
Thank you. Okay, so this is the question that both Devin and I get consistently is how are the oysters doing? And so what I want to show you is some of the work that we did. This is our most recent tong survey. We've done one every year for 3 years now. This was done 2022 to 2023 over the winter there. We did 227 sites, and it's a bit hard to see, but every one of those tiny little black dots there was one of our sampling sites. Some of these sites are done in places that we know there aren't oysters because we do need that negative data as well as the positive data to get a good perspective on what's going on and look for change. If you look at the little green areas, again, I apologize, it's a bit hard to see, but those sites, those green sites that have a lot of little black dots inside them are the Restore Act sites that were planted with lime rock. And I'll explain why that's pertinent later. There are 10 of them, total 319 acres. So the top panel here, which is arguably the most important, what this shows is the number of oysters per tonglik, because this is how we survey per tonglik, 6 tongliks, 6 either side of the boat per site, 227 sites. If you look at the left-hand panel, that's the western side of the bay. If you can imagine moving across the bay from the west to the east, the eastern side of the bay has the most points, as one would expect. Now, that line that goes across at around between 10 and 12, that line is about the equivalent of the 400 bags per acre threshold that FWC has in their language to open the fishery. So you can see there's one rogue site on the western side of the bay that seems to be doing really well. There's a couple that are kind of creeping up to that line, but really not much closer, not much more close rather. Move over to the eastern side of the bay, you can see several more sites in certain locations that are at, close, or over that line, which indicates that there are some spots that are doing okay that could possibly be over that threshold. Many of them are not. So the panels below that are seed and spat, respectively, which as one would expect would have a lot more points. But the point here is that since last year's tong survey, there are more sites that are creeping over that threshold. So we're going in the right direction, but it's still extremely patchy, very spotty, and most sites are not even close to that threshold. So that's what we found in our Baywide survey this year. So I'm going to talk a bit about our restoration efforts, and I've shown this before, so I'll kind of go over it quickly. In 2021, we deployed 30 reefs altogether, 15 on Dry Bar, 15 on Peanut Ridge, using 3 different materials. What we're calling large lime rock, which is 5 to 7 inches. This is a little bit different from FWC's large lime rock, which was 12, so it's getting a bit confusing here, but ours are 5 to 7 inches. Shell, and the small lime rock, which was used in the Restore Act deployments that people are more familiar with. That's a little 2-inch lime rock. Okay, so we have 15 reefs on either side of the bay, 3 different treatments, 5 replicates. So recent results from that, we sampled them this fall. As you can see on the left-hand side, you can see that that red bar is market-sized oysters. The blue is seed, and the green is spat. The large lime rock is the only one that's got sort of reasonable numbers of market-sized oysters. The small lime rock and the shell are kind of close to each other. They have 1 or 2 market-sized per tonglik, but generally there's seed and spat. And if you look at the right-hand panel, that just shows you the average shell height. And as you can see, the large lime rock, again, is doing a lot better with the average of about 50 millimeters shell height, and then the small lime rock, and then the shell. And I will say that the shell has blown out. That treatment has blown out quite a bit. The shell got spread, so that might be why it's not doing as well. We're not seeing them come through as juveniles as much or as adults. Then we put another restoration experiment down at Cap Point in spring 2023. These reefs are a little bit bigger, but still small on the grand scheme of things. There are 4 treatments We used that same large lime rock, the 5 to 7 inch. And then we put a layer of shell on top because we know shell is what the oysters like to set on. So the rationale there is, can we put a stable foundation down and put shell on top and have that shell stay in place and be a good recruitment substrate. Then we did the same thing with concrete. The concrete's a wee bit smaller, it's 4 to 6 inches, more or less, and then another treatment with a layer of shell on top. Okay. And this is just a picture of some of the concrete, one of the concrete samples, and you can see here it's covered in medium-sized oysters. So we were quite pleased to see that, and that was before we got the data. So what we see here with shell height, again, these have only been out there since spring this year. And so there's a lot of spat, a lot of seed. We are starting to see market size creeping through, very, very low numbers. As you can see on the right-hand panel, you can barely see them above that bottom line there. But we are seeing a couple of markets coming through. Now, what's interesting here is that the concrete and shell, and the lime rock and shell are all doing about the same, which is kind of what I would have expected. But that lime rock treatment by itself is significantly lower than the others in terms of shell height. And I think the reason for this is a bit confusing to start with, but I think the reason is that if you remember when we first started doing this experiment, we had that pile of lime rock waiting to go, and there were some big boulders in it, bigger than we wanted. It wasn't what we'd ordered. And so we got one treatment out, but it wasn't going well. The oystermen that were deploying it for us were having a hard time. The community didn't like it. So we had Tim switch it out. And so the other lime rock treatment had the smaller 5 to 7 inch boulders, which is what we had ordered. Now so I think what's going on is that treatment, that lime rock treatment that had the bigger rocks in it, just isn't doing as well. It's the same material. For some reason, that size didn't work. So that's an unintended lesson learned, that we're not quite sure what's going on. Maybe it'll recover, but there's definitely a difference using that bigger rock there.
Well, Dr. Brooke, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
And I'm just going on what you've just said.
Mm.
If they sent you material you didn't order, why did we put it in the bay anyway?
I didn't know it was an option to give it back. It was Tim that actually took a hit on that.
Yeah.
So it was ordered the same material, and I thought, yeah. So,
that's fair enough. I've had people ask me that many, many times.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I'm asking.
Yeah. In retrospect, hindsight, we should have just said no, but we were trying to get it out, and
fair enough.
yeah.
Mr. Chairman, Dr. Brooke, just while I got you here and we got the public to listen, that larger stuff that we had the trouble with some months back, how big of an area did you actually put that out in?
That was all of the lime rock treatments. So there were 4 reefs. 4 reefs
What's
that were
dimension-wise?
Yeah, they are 50 by 26 feet.
So
each one of those.
It wouldn't the whole.
No, these are tiny.
The reason I'm saying that is some people are under the impression that it was a large scale type of thing. It was a study.
Yes.
I'm throwing you a lob on that one.
No, I wish we had that much funding to do that much restoration, but that's FWC that has that. So no, these were tiny. I understand the concern, but those red squares there are the ones that we had lime rock on, and each one of those red squares is 50 feet by 26 feet by 15 inches high. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for that question, clarification. And again, going back to this, they're getting decent spat set. The concrete is doing nicely, and the lime rock and shell is doing nicely with the seed coming through. So we're encouraged, but we'll see if that other lime rock catches up at the next sampling round. Okay, so in summary, eastern side of the bay is doing better than the west, and this isn't news. We've known this for a while now. Areas cultured with the small lime rock are by far performing much better than the shell or uncultured areas, although we are starting to see some spots of the uncultured and the fossil shell, the stuff that was cultured with fossil shell, starting to see some more clusters coming through. The lime rock areas are very patchy. I mean, when you look at the map and you see this big square that's several acres, within that, there's a lot of patchiness because of the way that the material is deployed. So if you look at kind of a sonar map of those areas, it looks like a pile of spaghetti, where the hose has kind of blown it off the boat and it's all these squiggles. So within those areas, it's not consistent. And what we're going to be focusing on the next round is those lime rock patches, which are the ones that have the oysters on them, trying to see if we can actually get a good idea of how patchy those patches are, those squares are, so that we know better what the oyster resources are within each of those squares. The 2021 restoration experiment, large lime rock, by far performing the best, followed by the small lime rock, which is doing better than shell. 2023, treatments are performing equally with the exception of that large lime rock, and we'll see what's going on there. And there's a high abundance of spat and seed and a few markets in most treatments. So now I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk about the management, or the restoration and management plan. Just let me say that this is a misnomer, because this is not actually a management plan. When we first started, that's what we called it, not being able to foresee some of the confusion that would come from this terminology. It's not a plan, it's a list of options for different aspects of the restoration and management and conservation of the bay. So we worked through the Community Advisory Board. This group was one of the first things we did, was set up this group. There were a series of interviews. Everybody was interviewed, at least initially, in order to get onto the board. And it has met 26 times since 2019, so this has been a long haul. There are members from a number of different stakeholder groups. All the information on the past and the present members are on our website, if anyone's interested. So the plan framework, there are 5 different goals, and I'm not going to go through this in detail. I know everybody's tired at the moment. Probably the 2 primary goals are A and B, a healthy and productive ecosystem and the sustainable management of oyster resources. We also have the development of a group to ensure that some of the plan is implemented, or at least the agencies are paying attention. Stakeholder education engagement, and ultimately a thriving economy related to connected to a restored bay. Within each of these goals, there are a number of objectives, a few more strategies, and then actions. So this is a mammoth document. It's a big document, and it's quite complicated. So and it will be available on our website. The draft is actually available now. So I'm just going to talk about Goal B, since that's the one that people are probably most interested in. So this is just an example of the way it's structured. So Goal B is the sustainable management of oyster resources. The vision, a sustainably managed and enforced wild oyster fishery, with a management plan that protects the resource and provides fair access to stakeholders. And then our outcome, which is probably a little ambitious, by 2030, an ecosystem-based adaptive management plan will be in place to sustainably manage oyster resources in Apalachicola Bay, and there are 9 strategies and 40 actions associated with that goal. So this is just an example of one of the strategies. Evaluate management approaches that could be used to maintain a wild oyster fishery. The actions are, and there's a number of them, I'm not going to sort of read them to you, but they include things like daily harvest limits, which we already have, managing harvest areas to avoid effort concentration. This has been one of the critiques in the past, that as the patches of oysters got smaller, you get more effort focused on those areas. Or for rotational harvest, for example, you're focusing people within a small area. So, you know, again, if you're interested, you can go and look at this entire plan. One of the more contentious parts of this is evaluate potential for limited entry. This is, again, all of these actions are things that FWC is going to have to evaluate. These are just ideas that the Community Advisory Board came up with for consideration by FWC. So where are we now? So November the 29th, the Community Advisory Board will vote on the plan. Hopefully they will approve it. It could go either way. I mean, they could vote not to approve it, but we're hoping that with the process we've gone through now, that they will vote to approve the plan. By December, this will be cleaned up and posted on the ABSI website. And then by January next year, we're planning to distribute hard copies to management entities and other interested parties, such as the Commission. And we're open to suggestions as to who might want to receive hard copies of this plan. Next step, so this is a living document, and this process has only just begun. So the next step is the CAB will end on the 29th of November. Their job is done. But a successor group, we've already always talked about a successor group to the CAB, will be, so the CAB will be replaced by that group, which is, for now, is called the Partnership for a Resilient Apalachicola Bay, or the PRAB. So, and it's being termed the partnership at the moment. So this partnership will help implement sustainable management, whether that's the elements of the plan or not, hopefully it is, for the Bay. Make recommended changes to the plan. Again, this is a living document. And serve as a communication hub between the community and the management entities. So funding for this partnership has been secured for 4 years. This is not ABSI anymore. This is an independent group. They are planning to hire somebody. The hiring process is in progress. It's being done through FSU, but again, this is a separate entity. It'll be connected to ANA, but the current thinking is that it will be a separate 5013C. So it's a work in progress. And anybody that is interested in joining this partnership or being involved, please contact Maddie. Again, this is an FSU contact, just for continuity and ease. But this group will be independent of FSU and ABSI. Okay. So I think that's all I had. If anybody's got any questions.
Anyone have any questions?
Just real quick, Mr. Chairman, going back to the concrete material, and this is something Devin may be able to address as well. So the concrete you put out, what, 4 months ago, 3 months ago?
May 5 or 6, yeah.
Well, it's flying.
Yeah.
But we've had some, from what you're showing there, it's right in line with the Kentucky Blue.
Yeah, that's not Kentucky Blue. It's a different type of lime rock. We got it from Perry, but it's lime rock. Yeah.
It's the same consistency? Or,
it's limestone. They're a little bit different with the crystal structure, but it's limestone. Yeah.
I guess my question is, what's the cost comparison between the concrete and the Kentucky Blue?
So we got, when we bought it, we're buying on a smaller scale, so the cost per cubic yard deployed is different. But we bought it, it was $55 a dump truck delivered for the lime rock, and it was $45 total per dump truck, which is about a cubic yard, for the concrete. The thing about the concrete is the material itself is inexpensive, but it's got to be cleaned, all the plastic and the rebar and all the other stuff taken out of it. So that's where the cost lies. So it's probably highly variable depending on where you get it from. But if it performs the same way, the benefits are that there's a lot of gas concrete being generated. You don't have to mine it, pull it out the ground. So there are benefits to it and it seems to be if it performs as well. Now, the other caveat is that not all concrete is the same. So, and in fact, I was educated about floating concrete at one meeting. I didn't realize concrete floated, but apparently some of it does.
That one.
Yeah. so
Must
it's
not be real concrete.
Yeah. So your roofs would be bobbing away into the Gulf. But humor aside, yeah, it is a potential substitute. It's not natural to the bay, of course.
Well, it does, like you stated earlier, though, you got a recycle factor there.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of it around.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've had contractors reach out to me and said, if the concrete works, we'll give it to you.
Yeah.
We'll even crush it and give it to you, but obviously I don't understand or know the process as far as the cleaning part of it.
Hey, if
I'm
they'll
just wondering
crush it,
that when we get to that total, or that big restoration project, I mean, if it's just for a number, if it's $10 million or $20 million, we can get a lot more bang out of our buck with that.
Yeah. I mean, on a small
material.
scale, if you look at it per cubic yard, it's only $10. But if you scale that up to
The 100 million.
Yeah, exactly. That could be a big savings.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that is up to these guys, but it's looking so far like it's doing the same kind of job. So, yeah, that was
That
good.
was good. I was actually waiting to see what those came back, or whenever the concrete was put
Yeah.
out. Because I think I told everybody, pray for the concrete. You know.
Well, it looks so far it's doing good, so we'll see next time.
And now the other thing, when you said earlier about the shell getting blown out, that's, you were referring to currents taken in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we do see that some of the shell that we put on top of the reefs has stayed. It's hard to capture that in this kind of present, with those kinds of graphs, but I think what we need to do next time is pull out the data from the shell versus the rock and see what percentage there are and who's recruiting on what. It kind of complicates the treatments a bit, mixing them up like that, but the shell at least has stayed, which is something that I wasn't sure of. I thought that might just get pushed off. So.
Anything, anyone else? Any questions? I have a couple of things I want to express. I think the only way you ever do away with the patchiness you were describing is for the material to be worked. That will give it the opportunity to be spread out. I know from doing it and being a part of the industry that did do it here in East Point and Franklin County, I've actually seen bars increase in size because they're being worked as far as the expansion of the bar. As long as they're just sitting there, they're always going to be patchy because they're not being moved around, nothing's being done with them. And to be honest with you, if they're left in burrs, they won't grow but so big and they'll start dying. They're not just going to stay there perpetually. I don't think that's the life of an oyster. And I just want to ask, because you talked about the CAB is about to finalize the plan, and Goal B has an outcome of 2030. What are we doing from 26 to 30? Because we were told by FWC they were opening the bay in 26.
That's just our sort of, we want this sustainably managed, with a bow on it by 2030. That doesn't include any interim steps, and that's just a target.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's anyway, I'll leave that alone.
I will say one thing. It's like yin and yang. We got optimism over here, and FSU just the pessimism. And I'm not knocking it, but I mean.
Well, there's realism in between.
Exactly. But anyway, I appreciate it. One other quick thing, and I'm not going to hold you up. Now, you said earlier this management plan, this is a living document. So obviously, what you're recommending, because from prior discussion, I'm not a big fan of limited entry, and I'm not sure what to finalize. I hadn't got to that point yet in my brain to see where we're at. I missed the last ABSI meeting. I apologize, but they made me come up here that day. But what are y'all doing? But my thing is it being a living document, it's something that can move, change with whatever is final with FWC. It's not final. I mean, we can potentially down the road. I mean, if you open up, we open up, let's say it's a booming crop, and for years right on in, we can start to.
Yeah, so this is just something that a group of people came up with. I mean, we could give it to FWC and they could shred it and ignore it. It's nothing, they are not under any obligation whatsoever to do anything in this document. So,
That's a lot of money being spent for not knowing if anything's going to come out of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying that.
Yeah, well, we are hoping that it will. That was the whole point.
Okay.
We're hoping that it will. But it's not up to us whether FWC decide to take any notice
I
of it or
understand
not.
that.
So,
But then also they can pick and choose what
Yes,
applies
exactly.
and what doesn't.
Yeah. And some of these things, you can't do all of it. You can't take every single one of those management goals and implement them all, because some of them are conflicting and some of them, won't make sense if they're together, sort of thing. So again, it's just a kitchen sink of options.
Yeah. Well, sorry, was you through?
No,
I'm
you're
sorry.
fine. Go ahead.
Well, if you're looking at some of those options that were on the slide, and just speaking again from, I grew up in the industry like a lot of us here. Back in the day, if you were working, you were working in seafood. If you have a restriction on the number you can catch per day, and you hold that fast line and say, well, Because here's some of the, and I'll be honest, here's some of the caveat that's been done to that. If the restriction was 10 bags a day, where they're filling 10 bags up as full as they can get them. But if you're gonna make a restriction of 10 a day, say 10 60-pound bags, so it'll make a true, honest restriction. But as far as limited entry, you've already got limited entry. If you're gonna do summer closures again, if you only have 3 oyster houses left in Franklin County, that entry is about as limited as it's ever gonna be. I do not ever foresee, I hope to be wrong, I do not foresee what I grew up seeing, what every one of us grew up seeing, where you could basically walk across boats, there were so many of them. I just don't see that happen. I don't know that many people, I mean, I know there are people that know how to make boats, but the people that made boats in our area, there are not that many of them left. The people that made the tongs, there aren't that many of them left. I mean, the whole industry is at a point of being stressed to put limited entry on top of it. I think you're just adding insult to injury, me personally, but that's my own
Again,
personal
this is, maybe it's not necessary then, given what you've said. You know, if it's FWC that knows how many licenses there are, knows how many people would be, you know,
But there are
working in the
there are a
fishery.
lot of people though, Dr., and I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to cut
No,
you off.
it's
There are
all
a
right.
lot of people, myself included, I'll be honest with you, I quit doing it after the oil spill, because I seen what some people were doing that was not right. But for years, I had an oyster harvesting card in my wallet, because good, bad, or indifferent, let's just be honest. I had a regular job, but if I went to work and my boss wasn't doing me the way I wanted to do it, he was doing me the way I don't want him to do me, I'd say, you know what, I'll see you, I'm going to go oystering. Because it's what we grew up doing, you know what I mean? So there might be a lot of people holding a license, that don't mean they're using the license.
No, that's right. And so when the fishery opens up, so yeah, let's be optimistic. We're not completely pessimistic.
Right. That's what I'm trying to say.
So, you know, we'll see then, I guess, how many people actually work. And again, the management, the whole key to that is adaptive. You know, if the oysters explode and people decide they want to go back, then, and there's 100 boats out there, which is, like you say, is unlikely, then, you know, they might think about limited entry at that point. But, you know, it's a sequential thing, you know.
Right, and I don't know what the thoughts are or the plans, but before the closure, you didn't just have to have a card to harvest, you had to have a restricted species to be able to sell. So I don't think you're gonna have a scenario where you have 1,000 people wanting to harvest, but they can't sell them. They have to have both.
Right.
So, you know, that needs to also be addressed by FWC as well, just to bring it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if there are 1,000 permits to go oystering, if there's only 200 to sell, we're gonna sell so many.
Yeah, I'm glad I don't have to deal with that. I'm just a dumb scientist. That's
No, I didn't say that.
No, that's okay.
Mr. Chairman, I got a real quick question.
Yes.
Dr. Brooke, you mentioned tong licks. What size tongs are you guys using for the oyster? Are you using regulatory, typical tongs, or?
No, they're, so a ton lick gape, we measured it, is half a square meter. I don't know if that, so it's 3 feet by 3 feet, more or less.
But
they're not the ones, the big ones that they use for harvesting.
use.
Yeah, and we don't do it the same way, you know, because we're trying to take a discrete sample. So this is a criticism I hear all the time. It's like, we don't oyster like that. It's like, well, I know you don't, but it helps us be consistent. It's like, boom, half a meter up on the boat, move along, half a meter up on the boat. That means that we can get consistent samples each time. So, but they're not the big fishing tongs, no.
Okay, thank you.
the problem you're gonna have with that, if I may, from having done it, is especially if they're bird up like these pictures, how many birds are you missing because you're going down? Where if you're working the bay and you're making a living off of it, you spread them babies as far as you can get them, because the idea is to bring things together.
Yeah.
And if it's more than your tongue can take, you can feel that, and you just start pulling up. I mean, I know that, and I'm not trying to be anyway, I know that you're trying to be scientific about it, but I don't know that that's truly measuring the bay with as bird as the oysters are in this current state.
So we started doing, and yes, there's a little bit apples and oranges, right?
Yes.
So the way that FWC and FDEP sample is they put a quadrat down, and then they pick up everything that's in it. So, and that's how they get their measurements of what's in the bay. So it's kind of the same thing. You know, you're taking a discrete area and taking what's in it rather than going, you know, all the way across the top.
Okay.
So yeah, none of the sampling that is done represents what the oystermen do.
Right.
But it's a way of comparing different sites and getting a density measurement.
Yeah, but it's also a way of not having, you're counting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you're counting, you have this graph that has sites that are still under the line, some that are coming above the line. But if you're not fully seeing what's there, that count is skewed.
It's a different way of measuring what's
Well,
there.
Yeah, but the people that are saying it's measured differently are the ones looking for when this bay is gonna be open. They were given a metric, but you're measuring different than what that metric is.
Yes.
That's the only point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
The measurement is different from the metric. Those that work in the industry were told when the bay gets back to so many oysters per, you know what I mean, there was a, I'm forgetting, but there was a measurement. But if you're gonna take, instead of having a yardstick, you're gonna use a ruler, the measurement's always gonna be smaller.
Okay.
That
So-
makes a problem.
All right, so how do you measure then the number of bags per acre using tongs, the way the oystermen do it? How do you get number of bags per acre out of that?
I don't know that.
Yeah.
I don't know
Don't
that.
either.
But there's a lot of things you can do like that you can't answer. Before they closed the bay, FWC had a regulation for percentage of small oysters for singles and a percentage for ones that are cupped together. You tell me who knows that figure that they can be standing by my boat and tell me that I'm way over on my oysters or right at the line when you're looking at a mathematical formula for bird oysters versus single oysters. I don't know anybody can do that in their head, but they used it to write people up. So,
That's
I
up
mean,
to
I'm
them.
just saying though, but the mathematical, the problem is if you're gonna measure with a ruler where you need to be using a yardstick, you're gonna come up with, if you're coming up with 100, whatever say 100 oysters per inch or per foot by this smaller measurement, if you were measuring how it's actually worked, it might be 300.
Right. But that, I don't want to argue, I don't
No,
want
it's
to get
fine.
into
I
an
just-
argument,
I
but
think it's something that hasn't been clarified. And the only reason I'm bringing it up, and I'm not trying to be any way, I'm really not. I'm not upset. I might seem that way, but I'm not. We are a captive audience, and we continually get these questions like a dripping on the head. Because we are somehow in people's eyes leaving it unchecked, leaving it, you know, they don't have any input. They feel like, you know, yeah, they might be able to speak publicly at a meeting, but and Commissioner Anderson said it before with other agencies, when you go there for public input and they flip the board and say, this is what we're doing, people don't feel like they've had public input.
right. So
So
what we,
that's the only
yeah.
reason I'm saying it.
What we need to figure out somehow, and this is what we're trying to do, and it's not perfect, you're right, is figure out how many oysters there are per unit area of real estate on the floor, right? And you can't do that easily by just, you know, running along the side of the boat. So we've got to be taking some kind of slice of the bottom and counting the number of oysters in there. And then you extrapolate up. Is it got X number of oysters per meter squared? This means, do the math, number of bags per acre. So I agree that you need to have a lot of, the way to get a real proper measurement, I think, is to take a lot of samples.
Yeah.
So, and I agree that it's really dodgy if you've got, you know, a half a dozen quarter square meter quadrats, and then you start multiplying that 100 times to get bags per acre. You got a lot of error in there. And so I don't know how, I honestly don't know how we can get around needing to take a certain chunk of the real estate in order to figure out bags per acre. That's
Right.
just the way that is. It's number per area, right? So whichever way we do it, I think we need to take enough samples that we're confident in what that number actually is, rather than taking half a dozen and then doing the math and multiplying, because you do get errors in that.
You do.
So this is one of the reasons why I want to focus on those Lime Rock areas, because they're pretty much, with a few exceptions, they're pretty much the only ones out there So, and really drill down and do a lot of samples on those so that we can see, you know, get a better idea of whether that's accurate or not. Yeah. But you're right, it's not an easy question to
And the
answer.
other thing I think that a lot of people may not realize, and I'm saying some of these things because this is public, because I had somebody express this to me from the state level. They said, well, talking about the percentage of the bay, I said, well, here's the thing. We've never had 100% of Apalachicola Bay is not oyster habitat.
No.
And we've never had, of the available habitat, it's never been anywhere close to 100%. It just never has. Different areas do different at different times. But what we had in the past that maybe was different before it got to a point of really being stressed out was summer closures. People were able to oyster where they wanted to oyster. Toward the end of it, yeah, check stations was a big deal. I know the state might not think it was, but I'm telling you, as someone that was in the industry at the time and they were using them, you thought twice before going to that check station, I promise you.
And that's something we talked about too.
You thought
Yeah.
twice about it.
Yeah.
And it helped regulate the industry to a big extent, because right now, I mean, I'm just being honest. If
There's
I'm
no
if I'm brave
accountability.
enough to go with it and I get it to the house, it's all good.
Mm-hmm. And we know
When
that's
when
going
it
on.
changes hands, it's all good.
We know that's going on.
You know, that's an issue.
Mhm.
But anyway, I could belabor a lot of things growing up in the industry. I won't do that.
No, it's interesting. Obviously, didn't grow up oystering. I think that's fairly obvious.
It's all good.
But no, it's certainly been a learning curve working with community members rather than sitting in the ivory tower and, you know, so.
Mr. Chairman,
I
go-
welcome
got
your
a
input.
question. One more, and I'm gonna leave you alone.
It's okay.
Let
That's
you
what I'm
deal
here
with
for. I'm the
flat
punching bag.
tires. It's a bad day to talk to us about oysters after having a flat tire, I imagine you're. But no, going back to what you were saying about doing the surveys, what's the difference? How is Florida State, I mean, FWC surveying versus how you guys, I mean, Devin, y'all are diving, is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that giving you a more, you know, exact, I'd hate to say it that way, but yeah, it pretty much is. I mean, if you're down there, you know, physically looking at it versus the measured tone, you see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, so we did, and I'll let Devin speak to this too, but we cross-calibrated our tonging on our restoration sites with divers. So what happened was, you know, we've got one person that's doing the tonging, right? It's consistent, and so that's what it is. Shannon does the tonging for us. And so anyway, we put divers down, and we had, I think, 3 divers in the water. And one of the divers came back with this giant sack. I mean, I could barely get the bag on board the boat because he was just going to get everything. And then the other 2 were sort of more similar. So you've got 3 different people doing theoretically the same thing, but they're doing it differently. And you're going to get that. So there's always going to be error with any of these approaches. But with the divers, I mean, it's a legitimate way of doing it. It's kind of the traditional way of doing it. The reason I started doing the tonging is because diving requires a smaller weather window. You can't do it in conditions that you can tong. It requires expertise. You got to have the divers. Like I said, the conditions have to be right. You need the expensive gear, and it takes a long time to process it the way FWC does it, because they bring it all onto the boat, take it back, and then process it back at the lab. Whereas we can turn it around quickly because we do a lot of the processing on the boat, because you don't have to wait for the divers to get in and out. It's just quicker. And so it's an equivalent approach if you cross-calibrate the different approaches, right? So our tong licks are about 1/2 square meter. Their quadrats are about 1/4 square meter. So I don't know if that really answered your question as to whether one's more accurate than another, but
Not really, but we
yeah.
talked
But there's
about it.
error in both. There's always
Yeah.
going to be error. Mm.
Well, and one, sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I think one good point to mention regarding our different methodology is we're coming up with similar results. Maybe I spin it a little bit more on a positive note, like you were saying, but a lot of those summary points that were on those slides, we're seeing the same things. We're seeing good areas, they're very patchy, some areas better, some areas not so much better. So I think that's one positive outcome, that we're doing different methods, but we are coming up with similar results.
And we are on time with the total restoration as far as,
Yeah. So if you want me to hijack the presentation real quick. And if you do come to the CAB meeting, I'll give another update next week. But we were able to get a little bit more bang for our buck with the restoration work. I think mainly what I've been focusing on is the pilot study, which was about 24 1-acre reefs. I said we might be able to do some other work. We need to talk to the contractor. Well, economies of scale, if you have more money, there's more profit to be made. So they agreed and said, however much you want to do, if it's the same type of rock material, the same location in Appalachia, we're all for it. So overall, we're going to be able to get over 90 acres of restoration worked out. So we're going to do the 24 1-acre reefs for our study. We're giving FSU 4 1-acre reefs to kind of blend our studies together. Those are going to be in the East Hole area. And then we reached out to I reached out not only to our researchers at the East Point branch, reached out to FSU and also stakeholders. Basically said, hey, if we have just areas to just toss material for oyster restoration, where do you want it? And overall, we got about 30 acres in Cat Point and 32 acres in East Hole. Those were the two areas that were the predominantly favorable areas by the stakeholders. So overall, we sent those, I sent the coordinates to our contractor. We got the thumbs up from both a navigational hazard, or lack thereof, and our researchers said, yeah, we can monitor that. That's good for the oysters, good for the oyster harvesters. So overall, I sent all the paperwork to my contracts team yesterday afternoon for them to work on it this morning while I knew I was going to be here. But all signs are thumbs up for the contractor to sign pen to paper very soon, and he's going to start getting that rock. And actually, I don't know what your guys' timeline are, but I'm more than willing to stay. I have some of the samples of the rock in my car. I heard there were some photos going around on FSU, or FWC is going to be using this rock. I saw some of the photos. That's not what we're using. It's a totally different type of rock, smaller rock. I brought some. I didn't know if it was going to be a security issue if I'm bringing in rocks, so I decided not to. But
as long as you're not throwing them.
Yeah, right. So I have some in the car. I'm more than willing to hold on and for you guys to take a look at it. Or I can send you guys some photos, whatever's fine. But yeah, we're on schedule.
Okay.
Long story short.
Thank you.
and Mr. Roger took a stick, made sure that's the right spot. Y'all putting these this time?
So
Mr. Mathis and his pole.
Well, we haven't talked about that, but the contractor did say if there's anyone that if we need to hire someone either for navigational purposes or just we want some locals on board to help us, we always look for locals. It's totally up to the contractor. They want to hire some people. But for FWC's perspective, we're not only going to be cornering off the reefs with buoys and saying, hey, focus on this area. They're going to be using a barge excavator to deploy the material, so we won't have that spaghetti from a hose. But we're also going to be mapping the reefs almost immediately afterwards. I'm working with, I think it's Navico now. They own both Lowrance and Simrad on outfitting one of our 22 Boston whalers to bring down here from Tallahassee. That'll be the oyster boat to where we'll have someone mapping it immediately to where the contractor, if we say, hey, that corner is a little low, we need you to add a little bit more material, contractor will be on site to correct anything.
I believe before you got here, they kind of hit the mark on some stuff, and that's where what I was alluding to.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But if you need Mr. Roger and a stick, he can show you exactly where to put it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You done with this?
I think so. Any more questions, Commissioners, concerns? Dr. Brooke, Mr. Resco, thank y'all.
Thank
And
you.
happy Thanksgiving to you.
Thank you, you too.
All right, Ms. Griffith, we'll come back to you.
All right, Commissioners, Michael is actually releasing the latest edition of my report, which also includes all of the late ad budget resolutions. This is the last meeting that we can get any of those approved. So it's been quite the scramble trying to get all that compiled for you all. The first action item is the CR 67 Phase 3 Grant Agreement and Resolution of Authorization. At the last meeting, the board approved the Phase 3 Grant Agreement from the Florida Department of Transportation. After sending the agreement back to the grant manager, it was noted that the FDOT had neglected to change some of the program details in the agreement, and FDOT has since sent a revised award agreement. The amount and project scope of the award is unchanged. Still the same $1,650,284, and resurfacing and widening of CR 67 from Forest Road 166 to Forest Road 172. Board action to approve and authorize the chairman to sign the attached corrected FDOT agreement and resolution of authorization.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Sanders, second by Commissioner Ward. Any discussion, Commissioners? All in favor? Any opposed? All right, that's unanimous.
Okay, Commissioners, next item is number 2. At the November 7th meeting, the county opened bids for the roof replacement at the Carabel Health Department. 4 bids were received and released to consultant Tracy Busby for review and recommendation. Ms. Busby has reviewed the bids which were submitted, and she has recommended award to the lowest bidder, MKM Quality Construction Incorporated, at $52,080, as all paperwork and documentation was in order. The replacement of the roof is being funded by the county's LATCF funds. Board action to authorize the chairman to sign the attached notice of award to MKM Quality Construction Incorporated and the construction contract documents once available.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Sanders with a second by Commissioner Ward. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That is also unanimous.
Next item is item number 3. It is time again for the county to submit funding application for the Transportation Alternatives Program. The Transportation Alternatives Program provides funding for the construction of new sidewalks and multi-use paths. TA projects are also competitively scored and awarded based on a limited amount of funds available by each FDOT district. Franklin County is eligible to apply for 2 projects under this program, and Mark suggests applying for the unfunded portion of the Phase 4 CR 370 Alligator Drive path from the marina to the S-curve as the first-ranked project, and the design of the multi-use path along River Road in Carabel. We were thinking we may have greater success with multiple phase approach as the second-ranked project. Board action to authorize the development of the applications and confirm the suggested ranking of the projects. Actually, the resolutions were not needed at this time.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Sanders. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous.
Next item number 4, during the inspection of the SGI Fishing Pier seawall area after the damage caused by Hurricane Idalia, it was noted that the top cap boards on the handicapped access ramp to the pier had deteriorated and were warped and pulling apart from the fasteners. The top cap is now unsafe with exposed screws and nails. While the crew is on site replacing the boat bumpers in the basin, the contractor provided the attached quote for $5,880 to replace approximately 608 feet of the 2x10 pressure-treated top cap on the handrails. The decking on the ramp is also nearing the end of life, and as the replacement of the decking will be a much larger project, that replacement will be included in the revised TDC spending plan for consideration. Board action to approve the attached quote for $5,880 to replace the top handrail cap on the ADA access ramp to the fishing pier to be paid by the Fishing Pier Maintenance Fund.
So moved.
We have a
Second.
approval by Commissioner Sanders, and we have a second by Commissioner Amison. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just
Yes.
some of this, since it was Hurricane Idalia, we can't get any, I guess, well, it's kind of emergent that because it's ADA, has to do with that, right? So,
Yes, and actually the ADA access ramp itself, it's actually just an end-of-life issue. So,
Okay.
FEMA will
So we
only
can't- okay.
cover storm damage.
all right, thank you for the clarification.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous.
Okay, next item, budget resolutions and budget amendments. Attached are resolutions for the adoption of unanticipated revenues as part of the end of the fiscal year bookkeeping. These funds were not included in your original adopted 22-23 budget because at the time of the budget adoption, they were unanticipated. Florida Statute 129 allows a county 60 days after the end of a fiscal year to incorporate unanticipated revenues into the prior year's budget. This is the final board meeting in which amendments and resolutions can be approved. The first resolution is for $156,056 in state grant funds received from the Florida Division of Historic Preservation and $64,385 in insurance proceeds relative to the Carabel Beach Park Preservation Project. The second resolution is for $42,779 in federal funds received from the LATCF Consistency Program used to refurbish some of the county playgrounds and the re-roof of the old annex roof in Carabel. The third resolution is for $183,184 in state grant funds received from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection and $88,996 received in private donations for the SGI Inclusive Playground Project. The fourth resolution is for $7,857 in unanticipated interest earnings for the revolving loan fund, which was transferred to ARPC for use in their revolving loan program for Franklin County businesses. The fifth resolution is for federal grant revenues in the amount of $630,097 from the USDA to fund 75% of the purchase price for 2 new ambulances. The sixth resolution is for $17,423 in federal grant revenues received for the CDBG housing program. The seventh resolution is for $13,584 in unanticipated interest earnings for the Road and Bridge Fund used to fund capital outlay for the department. The eighth resolution is for unanticipated settlement proceeds from government software assurance settlement with the tax collector's office and the upgrades that he made during the year with those proceeds. Board action to adopt the attached budget resolutions.
So move.
So a motion to approve by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Amison. Any discussion? That's a lot of reading there.
It is.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous.
Okay, and I also have a second action item. I also have 5 line item budget amendments below for approval by the board. Budget amendments simply move budgeted amounts between line items during the fiscal year. The first one is budget amendment below is needed to adjust line items to move additional expenses within 3 departments with shared expenditures, and that would be administrative services, fiscal management, and the planning departments, along with the county commission's professional services budget. The second is the budget amendment below is needed to fund specific projects during the fiscal year by the Franklin County TDC. That includes, the maintenance of the dredge channel maintenance, land acquisition for the East Point Nature Center, the Armory Convention Center, sprinkler system project, and then also the Carabel Beach Park renovation project, which also received a match from TDC. The third amendment is to move budgeted funds from the road and bridge from various operational line items and the reserve for contingency line item to fund cost increases in road base and overtime from the lack of availability of inmate labor and some equipment purchases. The fourth amendment is to move budgeted funds from the revolving loan funds reserved for contingency to the transfer to other government agencies line item, as the board did move the balance of our revolving loan fund to ARPC, where they were able to leverage those loan funds that they had available. And the last one, the fifth one, actually moves funds from within the healthcare trust fund to the line items which funded the 25% match for the USDA ambulance grant and the design and engineering costs incurred to date for another major upgrade for the ambulance service, which is the design of a county-owned EMS station in Lanark Village.
All right, any motion to approve all that?
Yes.
So move.
Second.
So a motion to approve those resolutions by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Sanders. Any discussion?
I just wanna know, on this, healthcare trust fund outline, what is that specifically for?
For
down here on the item, where you just increased it $231,000. I see it.
Oh, healthcare trust fund capital outlay, that
Yeah.
is, that would be the match for the 2 ambulances that the county just
Okay.
received from
I
USDA.
thought it was
Yeah.
after I asked the question, but that's the reason why I said it. What is it?
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
Okay, next item, on Friday, the county closed on the acquisition of the old Gulf State Bank building in East Point. The attached quotes were previously provided during the county's inspection period for treatment and initial bonding of the building for the termite issue. The county will contract with Aero Pest Control as they are a regional provider for the treatment of buildings with Vicane gas. Once the building is tinted, the county then will also have the soil treated with Termidor from Donnie's Pest Control and then bonded to warranty the building from any future infestations. Board action to authorize the chairman to sign the attached quotes and customer acknowledgements and to proceed with scheduling the tinting of the building for December 13th.
So moved.
I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Amison,
Second.
second by Commissioner Ward. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
I oppose.
3-1. Commissioner Sanders opposes. Please proceed.
Okay, next item is item number 7. As reported during this year's budget discussions, there was a change in the 2023 statutes which authorized the expenditure of up to 10% of tourist development tax proceeds to fund public safety services. However, before this could occur, the county must amend the TDC spending plan to reflect this change. A rough draft of the revised plan will be presented to the board for review. Changes and comments at the next meeting as well will be sent on to the Tourist Development Council for their review, changes and comments prior to a draft being submitted for consideration and review at the public hearing. Board action to approve scheduling a public hearing for the second meeting in January to amend the TDC spending plan.
So moved.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Sanders,
Second.
second by Commissioner Amison and Commissioner Ward. Any discussion?
One quick question, could we do this public hearing during the meeting, or it has to be like after,
We've already scheduled something for after.
During the meeting.
during the meeting? Thank you.
I do have another question that's kind of related to this, but it's not exact. Ms. Aaron, how long have you been working on this? The spending plan?
For a little while, actually. Yeah, and I'm trying to come up with, kind of a list too, kind of our outline for the future on
Right.
where the board wants to go, and hope to
Right.
get input from you all in the next few weeks as well to include in that plan. And then also to try to get the plan to more reflect, the certain items in the budget that the county currently does as well.
Well, I'm grateful for that, and I don't want to sound ungrateful. But looking back at past stuff, because I've been doing it lately, to try to find out kind of more about where we are with our TDC and what's going on. Mr. Blair used to make all those presentations for the spending plan updates. Since you're doing the work, I think we need to find a way to compensate you for it from TDC. But I was just stating that publicly.
Yeah, she's being modest. She spent a lot of time on this pay plan. And yes, I was going to, once it's almost, so we're going to have a discussion with the board about, just say what I'm going to say, as Commissioner Amison says, it is what it is, about maybe, not necessary to Ms. Griffith directly, but some kind of some kind of transfer from TDC admin over to the county for her time served doing this, because this is actually a TDC administrator's role. This is their job.
That was
This is
gonna be
not-
my question, is
I
why
was
is
It's
thinking
it?
the
not the
same
fiscal
thing.
officer's
Yeah.
job, but I understand, I get why she's doing it.
Why is not the administrator doing it?
Commissioner, I don't know how to answer that question, but it will be no different from, in my opinion, if I'm wrong, I'll be corrected, from hiring a consultant to do this for you, basically, if you're unable to do it yourself. But I was gonna wait until it was completed, the draft was completed, to have that discussion with the board. But Commissioner Sanders, I'm sorry, I apologize, I can't really answer that question.
Well, I will say this, and I believe this is a fair statement to say. So I know when we started talking about, and the TDC board kind of gave their nod of approval to bring to us, and we've talked about adding some facilities, in particular in East Point and on St. George Island, that the TDC is gonna pay for. We've already purchased properties to kind of do some of those projects. The TDC board's not equipped to handle the stuff that we have to do with the planning and ordering stuff from Roddenberry with surveys and all these different things you have to actually build. So we moved that to us. And I think it just kind of fell through the cracks, but you know what I mean? It's truly, as far as doing the project, yeah, it moves faster on the county side, because I don't think the TDC administrator should be or needs to be doing the stuff that we're gonna do with design and the stuff we do with hiring contract, you know what I mean? And putting stuff out to bid and that kind of stuff. They're not really set up for that. So it kind of got just, anyway.
Well, she needs to be paid.
It should have been differentiated, that's the reason I brought it up.
I mean, and that's taking away, Mr. Chairman, taking away work from her other extensive duties that she does, so.
Thank you.
I mean,
That's-
she's
that's
not like her
thing to
job's
do.
already difficult enough as it is.
That's where I was headed.
Best thing to
that's
do,
always our
Mr. Chairman,
problem.
is Aaron, send them a bill.
Yeah.
He done with it.
For services rendered.
Yeah.
And actually, if some of the county administration does come back to the county, I would like to actually see it go more towards some of the support functions for those projects that we are trying.
Yes.
You know, I would like for it to go towards the projects.
All right, so we still have to vote. I know, sorry, I didn't. mean to
I
leave
was
that.
wondering that though, I'm glad you
Just,
brought, because I think all of us were kind of thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Why is she doing TDC stuff? Anyway,
Well, it's been a long time since that spending plan's been amended, so that's part of what our difficulty, I think, has been. But-
Yeah, and actually, the sheriff also, you know, asked us where we were as far as the 10%. I know I've been
Oh,
trying
yeah.
to, you know, get through the closure of the fiscal year
Yes.
and all of the budget resolutions to kind of get that off my plate as well. So, yeah, but it's a good catalyst and it's a good time to actually update everything.
That's right, yes, sir.
And just as a procedural matter, when the board considers the adoption of an ordinance amending the spending plan, this is one of those unusual circumstances where the legislature requires a majority vote plus one
Yes.
of the governing board. And you have 4 members, so it's going to take all 4 of you voting affirmatively for it to adopt a change. So it's a little bit different procedure. I just want to make sure the board was aware of that. And I was just checking my phone to make sure they had not changed the voting requirements. So
So it's 3 plus 1?
4 out of 5 in our case, yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, there's been a motion on this in a second. Has there
No,
been?
There's been a motion on what Ms. Aaron brought forward,
Okay.
yes.
Do we need to amend that motion to add the verbiage that she gets some compensation or? is that-
Well, that don't have anything to do with advertising the spending plan. I think it's a
Gotcha.
discuss- I think we did enough to open the discussion.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, so we did have a motion by Commissioner Sanders. It was seconded by Commissioner Anderson and Commissioner Ward. And I think we've discussed it all we need to. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous.
Okay, Commissioners, and we do have one late add item that the Sheriff's Department actually just sent a grant award agreement for the Byrne JAG grant for the Drug Investigations Unit. This award is for $39,348 and funds a portion of the salary and benefits for a drug investigations officer. As this was a late add item and was not scheduled, you know, the chairman will have to call for public comment.
You sure they haven't done that this year?
We
It
most
seemed like
likely
we do that
authorize
every
the
2
app.
months. As the guy's signing it,
We
it
most
seems like
likely
it's a
authorize
lot.
the application, but this is the formal agreement.
Okay. All right, so do I call for public comment first?
Yes.
If there's anyone in the room that would like to comment on this publicly before we take potential action, it is something that was not on our agenda. So we'll call for public comment this time. If not, sir, would you please ask? Zoom
Anyone
as well?
attending by Zoom, if you'd like to comment, please do so by raising your hand. Or selecting the raise hand feature.
Okay.
Raise that. No hands raised, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Pleasure of the board.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Sanders. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous.
I'm laughing at what do you say, every 2 months, it seems like you're signing in January.
I've seen multiple things that say Jan, maybe they have to do like a preliminary and, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we usually do request authorization for the application
Okay,
for
that's what
that
it
as
is.
well. Yep.
That's what it is. Just me, sorry. Anyone have anything for Ms. Griffin before we proceed?
Mr. Chairman, I do. So, apparently, got a text from Mr. Davis, our Parks and Recs Director. The Musco lighting at Vrooman Park was tested last week, and I went out there, and they are super bright. I feel sorry for the neighboring people that live there.
No, it's not that bad.
It's not, I mean, it's not bad. No, I mean in a good way. I mean in a good way. But yeah, you can't, there is no excuse. People can't go out there and play ball during the nighttime hours or dark hours, because it's bright. In a good way, though, in a good way.
It doesn't light up the air, though, it lights up
It
the
lights up
playground.
right on the field, but it kind of emanates over, but they look really great. And then I see the excavators and the dirt piles over there, and a lot of people's been asking, and I keep trying to tell them, you know, that we're doing a lot of work on those fields. I don't know exactly when that's gonna start, though. Do you, the actual digging and the swell, the drains and all that?
Actually, from what we understand, it should start any day now. I mean, likely not
Any
this
day now,
week with
yeah.
Thanksgiving, but, you know.
Yeah, I've been keeping an
They're
eye
ready
on it.
to
I haven't
go.
seen any movement, so.
Miss Aaron, do you think they'll be done by the first of the year?
They better, I hope so.
Not by the first of the year, but definitely before
Baseball.
season.
How many
But the
weeks?
reason why we keep smiling is I got attacked. I'm just
Oh, Lord.
attacked, but I was at soccer moms got me.
Oh, Lord.
If they gonna be ready for that field by baseball season, you know, it was these
Yes.
moms,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I told them, I said, I don't, you know, I started tap
Yeah,
dancing.
me the same.
I was
Yeah,
doing my
that
little
didn't
tap
feel good,
dance.
did
I got on the phone and said, Aaron, I think it was what, 7, 8 o'clock at night. I said, I hate to bother you this late, but what's the timeline on Brogan?
Yeah.
I got cornered up at Zaxby's
Yes.
in Crawfordville.
But no, there was some concern about the timeline. in
I guess no
baseball
good deed
season
goes
coming in.
unpunished. I'm gonna get.
Yeah.
I said, I really don't know anything about it. You might better contact
Oh, okay,
Commissioner Ward.
Hey, anytime, any of you guys, please forward them my personal cell phone number. I'll be more than happy to
No,
talk.
no,
Don't
it's-
ever not say.
It don't bother
It
me.
don't bother me to talk to them.
Yeah.
Don't bother me.
I just, like I said, I just kind of flipped the phone up, text
I
Eric.
felt bad because I didn't know anything about it.
Well, I'm hoping that it gets done by no later than March, so that way for baseball,
Oh, yeah.
soccer, whatever
Well,
season.
but I will tell you this though, being out there during baseball season with a 6-year-old or 7-year-old, and last year, not one game could we play in East Point, not a game. We had to move all East Point's games over to Appalachia because of the field conditions were swampy, just wet. And we're in a good direction with Brogan. On behalf of those parents over here in East Point, I mean, it's nice to be able to play in your backyard once instead of having to travel across 2 bridges every time your kid has a game, you know? So you're in a good spot. We're in good hands.
And I know that, Mr. Chairman, you know, a lot of people are concerned, but the way I look at it is just think of what's gonna be the outcome. What's the end game? The end game is gonna be like, as Commissioner Amos is saying, it's so much better. So patience is a virtue, and, you know, we work really hard to all of us to get this park, the needed upgrades that it's been needing for many, many years.
Yep.
And I'm happy and very pleased to see it progress and actually happen. I just hope it's before March.
Yeah,
But it's, like I said, the outcome's gonna be so much better.
Commissioner Amerson, do you know when Day of Ball is scheduled for this coming year?
And don't tell me in that light.
Did they do it last April or was it March?
You know, I don't know if it's age or what's going on, but the other day I said, does practice start in March? And then I believe the first game or day of ball is the first weekend in April,
Okay.
I believe.
Okay, so they'll start practicing in March then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's, it should be a month out.
I'll go out there every day and light some fire under them.
Oh.
March, it's gotta be done by March, end of February.
But,
Attorney
and
Schuler,
to
I-
clarify,
I'll go out there with
those-
my
those
shovel.
mom- Those soccer moms wouldn't be in negative or anything, they were just asking, and I wanted to
Mine.
answer it, so I just, you know, like I said, I'm bugged Aaron at 8 tonight.
Like I
And
said, I felt bad because I didn't know the update.
And that's one of the reasons why I brought it up, because I've had people ask too, and I just wanted to make a note for the record and let the community be aware and know. So, thank you.
Attorney Schuler, when she said the lights were bright, I had flashbacks to D.W. Wilson Park and those meetings.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
I know exactly what you're talking about, and I don't appreciate you bringing that up. Now that I'm sitting in this chair,
My bad.
I wish we could have went a whole lot of time without
You forgot the entirety of that subject matter, didn't you?
It was a rough time, so, yeah.
It's all good. Anyone have anything else for Ms. Griffin?
No, thank you.
No, not at the
I
time.
do have a couple informational items. On the HMGP Generators Grant Program, bids will be opened at your next meeting for that grant program. And we did issue an addendum on November 13th, which removed 2 sites from the project scope. The existing EOC currently has an operational generator, and after discussion with the EOC Director Daniels and Program Consultant Tracy Busby, the new EOC will require a different size unit, and it was determined that a generator will be pursued for the new site instead, then the current generator will remain at the existing location. And it was for the EOC, so we're not really able to utilize those grant funds for that location any longer since it is moving. And then we also had originally included in the project scope a portable generator for the courthouse. However, it was determined that as part of the county's turnkey recovery program with the Florida League of Cities, It actually includes the delivery connection and setup of portable generators in the aftermath of a natural disaster without the large grant match, ongoing maintenance, inspection, servicing, and closed storage or upkeep that would be required with a portable unit. The generator project still includes permanent hardwired backup generators for Weems Hospital, the Carebell Clinic, and the runway lights at the airport. And a pre-bid meeting is set for Monday, November 27th, beginning at the Carebell Clinic. And then also at your next meeting, we'll be opening bids for the beach parking improvement project between First and Chili Boulevard on St. George Island. And we will also have the rankings for both the auditing services RFP and the engineering services RFQ available for you all at the next meeting. And one thing to note, that just to kind of throw it out there for you all to be thinking about which roads you would like to submit as part of that engineering services agreement. We will be actually bidding the county road paving projects differently in the future. They'll actually be smaller projects and also more frequent. And an engineer will actually go out with a specified slate of roads each time.
So, Ms. Aaron, I got a question about that. How are we gonna accomplish that? Are we gonna agree to give up a certain percentage or a certain dollar amount out of each? I'm fine with changing let me back up. I'm fine with changing the mathematical procedure we've been following. But how are we gonna get to the point of knowing what roads we're gonna do and how much money is gonna go toward them?
Well, as it is now, you all basically have a set amount of paving funds per district.
Right.
And under this new arrangement, it would stay the same. So, you would basically submit a slate of roads. The engineer would actually review and let you know, what was possible to do with that amount of funding.
Yeah.
And then there's also gonna be probably 7.5%, 8.5%, which would go for engineering fees to actually design and write the bid specs for those roads.
Right.
So it will be all professionally engineered in the future.
And Mr. Chairman, I think that's a great idea, because again, stormwater drainage, it's gonna help in that aspect. So when we just go resurface a road, we take stormwater drainage into consideration with it completely engineered.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna put the proper swells, proper drains, and things of that nature, and the proper grade, so water can run off effectively and not run into people's property. So I think that the whole engineering aspect is gonna benefit us in the future. So I think that's definitely something that we need to move forward and consider.
I agree with that.
Well,
Can I ask a question of Ms. Aaron? This is another question. The doors at the annex, county annex and the library, the automatic doors, where are we at on those?
We have ordered and we've actually authorized the work order on that. He just has not made it back, to actually install the ADA access button. And kind of similar to these doors, it took quite a while from the time that we actually got the green light for them to, accomplish.
If you notice, when your skin gets old, it grabs you a little bit, and that one at the annex is real bad. And, everything.
The Carebell library is fixed, I believe, though. I think he was.
With the
Oh, did he-
automatic library.
did he
I
get
thought
the
that
Carebell?
that was just a switch, and I didn't.
Okay, so maybe Carebell was,
Because when I
yeah.
was over there with the alarm system, I asked Whitney about that, and she said, oh, yeah, she said it's working fine. I'll
Okay,
double
because
check with her.
That's where I got the
Yeah.
complaint from Lanark.
Oh, okay.
Because they went there to the library. and they got
At
okay.
the library, okay, I'll double check
Okay.
with Whitney.
But
Okay.
the annex is where I do it
Yes.
every time I go in there.
That's
Okay.
next.
But it's other people that does it too, it's just
Okay.
not for me, I'm just bringing it up.
And we're also in the process of trying to obtain 3 written quotes to, repair the damage to the Carebell Library location from the fire. Yeah.
I've got another question, but I don't know whether it needs to go to Aaron or Mr. Schuler.
They both
So
here?
can I go in
They're
there
both
now?
here.
Do you
They're both
mind?
here?
Okay, when Alligator Point Fire Department went and leased the old fire department until they got the new fire department in, they had to give they had to give us insurance, proof of insurance. Had they given you proof of insurance for the new building? Or do you have that yet, or?
We don't have any
Do you-
mechanism for
do you
requiring
require
that
it?
at this time.
It's not our building, I mean, they own it.
So because they get MFBU funds, we do not require them?
To my knowledge, the only fire department, like firehouse that we own is the
Lanark.
one in Lanark.
Yeah.
We did require, insurance coverage while they were leasing the
Okay.
fire department building that they had donated to us. None of the other VFDs, to my knowledge, provide
Okay.
us with copies of their,
That's the reason why I wanted to ask the question, so,
but you're working on those contracts, we'll be bringing that up probably the first of the year for the volunteer fire departments. I mean, that's something the board could
well,
consider requiring at that time.
in that, I would like to know that they're all got adequate, fire, or liability insurance, in other words. And then do that, then we know everything's covered, and all. But that was one of my questions,
Yes, ma'am.
in case I know.
Well,
Before you move on to Attorney Schuler, if everybody's finished with Mrs. Griffith.
not quite, but go ahead.
I was gonna say Courtney had an announcement
We'll just
about
keep
P
it
and Z
on.
meeting this afternoon. But I didn't know if you guys are finished
She
with
needs
Aaron
to
first.
stay.
I have one more thing, but go ahead, Ms. Courtney, what you got?
So I think because it's close to the holidays, we had one, who probably won't be back in time for the meeting, because of a doctor's appointment, and then one that just, texted me and said that they won't be able to make it to the meeting, so we don't have a quorum tonight. So we're gonna have to cancel the meeting for tonight and move it to next
I thought
month.
we moved it to keep a quorum.
We did.
We did,
That's why I'm a little bothered
yeah.
by that. And
So, we did have a quorum before
Yeah.
one
Was,
person.
is it worth trying to meet at the end of November?
What I'm worried about, then Courtney and I were just talking about, this while I
Yeah.
was in there, you guys were talking to Dr. Brooks. I would hate to move it to the 28th, the next Tuesday, and then some people are still getting back from
Yeah.
Thanksgiving. That's right after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
And we do
weekend.
have a variance on there, so I wanna be able to re-advertise for that as well, since the meeting date has changed.
So I guess the only thing we can do is have it in December.
Yeah,
Is what I'm hearing.
combine the agendas in
Yeah.
December, right?
Thankfully, I don't have that
Cancel
much in
next.
December to add to
Right.
this one, so it's not bad,
Not
but
super
long, okay.
So what would we do is, cancel November, and then just have December?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she has to re-advertise it
Yeah.
because of the variance request.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, is that something you need board action to approve?
Just
or-
inform the board and the
Just inform the
public,
board,
that's
yeah.
all. And she's gonna do all the notifications now.
Good.
12 o'clock, yeah.
One more thing before we go on to Attorney Schuler. Ms. Griffin,
Thanks.
I don't know what it would entail, and it might be more than what I'm thinking. Would it be, because we have talked about this before as a board, openly, publicly. After the first of the year, would we be better served, would the residents be better served if we tried to hire a company to basically tell us the quality of all of our roads from worst to best? So when we start moving forward paving projects, even if we only, as a board, agree to address one or two a year from that list, and then still retain money for our districts, for stuff that we might want to do, or maybe relining a road, or, you know what I mean? I'd like to at least have that discussion
Okay,
in December,
okay.
is what I'm saying, that's why I'm bringing it up now. You know, because it's gonna be difficult, they're probably gonna have the worst to worst to worst, oh, these are okay, you know what I mean, but anyway, I do think it's a discussion we need to have.
So I understand, so you want, let's say an engineer, we got an engineer to go out and rate all of the county roads, no matter what district.
Yes,
And then you guys would pick one or two, roads.
regardless of what
that-
district they're in.
As a group, and you would
Yes.
all contribute money
Yes.
from your specific funds to do this one road or two roads a
Yeah.
year? And-
Yes.
Okay, all right,
That's what I'm saying.
Well, Mr.
So we know we're getting rid of the worst ones first,
yes.
period. But
Okay.
anyway,
And Mr. Chairman, I'll add to that, if you don't mind. I did bring that up at budget, combining
Yes,
all of our,
yeah.
I know a lot of people may not like that, but I just think that that's a good idea, because like, for example, again, as I was mentioning, Commissioner Lockley and my district have municipalities that take some responsibility for road paving. So that's money in my account that I can have, where I'm not having to spend to pave or resurface a city road. But in addition to that, we all know how the prices have increased dramatically now. And the roads that we want to do, we can only do half or a quarter of, based on what we have in our road paving funds. And it's just not fair to our community citizens to drive these roads that are half done, or worse roads in some areas than others. But on that same note, this whole mobilization thing gets me too and aggravates me, okay? Because we have to wait before they come back, or we have to pay an astronomical fee in addition to what it costs to pave the road. So would it, in the future, hypothetically, benefit us, and will we basically get stuff equipment-wise paid for ourselves? Because I've been researching it, and online, you can buy a road striping machine for $3,000. Now, it's not the best of the best, but is that something that we may could look forward to in the future, is have our road department start being able to resurface roads and restripe roads? I'm just throwing it out there, because again, we're in the sunshine, and it's the only time we could talk about it. But in my opinion, the prices of road paving this day and age, and I know how much, Aaron and I had this conversation, that's with Timber Island. The price of asphalt, a load, was a few weeks back, $2,400 for the load. But we were getting quotes a lot more from certain companies, and can we get it cheaper by having our own road department do that? And I don't want to add to, the road department what they already have. I know their job's already big enough as it is, but
That increased
start
exponentially.
taking, like I said, this is just a thought. Because think about it, we're having to pay all the money from our road paving funds to the contractor and pay a mobilization fee if they're not in the area at the time. And the mobilization fee is what, $1,800 bucks, $2,000? So I'm just saying, the amount of money that we're paying these road paving companies, we could focus that money and allocate that money to our road department to maybe do it themselves. I don't know.
I gotta tell a story.
That's about $6,000 for that mobilization fee.
Yeah, I've never seen one that cheap.
Yeah,
Well-
I just got a quote on it, that's why I'm
Did you?
doing it, yeah.
That's pretty cheap.
Mr. Chairman, I gotta tell this story. When I hadn't been on here very long, some of the commissioners in their infinite wisdom figured out that the road department needed to do striping. So they went to the, surplus people. They got them a striping machine.
No.
Well, let's just say it was like this. And we had a horrible time.
Get what you pay
Oh,
for.
goodness. All right, well,
And the guy said, Miss Cheryl, please don't make us stripe the road.
all right, well, maybe I stand corrected. Maybe that's not the right direction we need to go.
Let's
I
have a
think all
discussion.
options are good, though.
Let's have
Yeah,
a
oh, yeah.
discussion with Mr. Neighbors
Yeah.
at our next meeting when he appears before you.
Well, and see, Levy County, they do it. They have a part of their road department that does the paving. And
So-
they do pretty good. Their lines are good.
So I have a quick little story for you. So, you talk about our road department, an FDOT contractor one day, by the grill, spelled the word stop
I remember.
incorrectly. That was an
Yeah,
FDOT
yeah.
contractor. I'm sorry, I just had to stop and laugh. It's just, it was spelled incorrectly, so,
Did they misspell a school zone somewhere?
But it was
Yes,
keep,
they did.
Yeah.
we were considering going into the paving business and doing the
Yeah.
striping. And they said, well, let's just see a striping machine, see what they can do. And then that commissioner said, I don't think we need to go any farther.
Well, maybe I'll eat my own
Not
words. I'll
here.
not be eating crow
No,
then
let's-
one day,
let's
but
talk to
I
Howard
just,
and see what he-
hypothetically.
Well, but that
Yeah.
also highlights, Commissioner, one of the
I love
reasons I was glad you were able to go to that FACT conference. One of the things we've asked them about this year, and FACT is actually pushing this for rural counties, is because before, the state has always been, maybe they'd be different this time, they've always been adamant, with the way the surtaxes are set up, you can have up to a certain amount, but it depends on which one you use, whether you can access any of the other ones, and there are multiple available. So one of the things we've asked them, and I've had meetings with our delegation about this, one-on-one, look, all we want you guys to approve is counties can take it to their voters to vote for it, instead of keeping us from even, asking our voters for it, because the voters have to approve it anyway. It's not saying if they say, yeah, they can vote on it, then we're gonna get it. But one of the things I think we could benefit from is the ability to have an infrastructure tax, just like we have a hospital tax. When you start getting, 1 cent or even half a percent a year, then we can have a real discussion on an amount of money we know that's coming in, and bond and actually catch up with some of these roads all at one time. And I think our citizens would be greatly benefited by that kind of thing. So that's one of the things that Commissioner was alluding to earlier that we've asked that fact that they're actually backing this year.
And Mr. Chairman, to add to that, you know, me trying to be a good steward of our taxpayer dollars, I was looking at my receipt from my stay over in Tampa. And the amount of fees that they charge, there's an urban tax, there's, of course, they charge for parking, that's for the hotel, but all these taxes, and it was not cheap, it was like I don't know, I have to go back and look, Courtney probably could tell me. It's an astronomical fee, and they're getting this every day. The whole 2-3 nights I stayed there, it was a fee tacked on every single day. And that's just me. Could you imagine the big old however many room hotel? So, yeah, that's how, I mean, it's crazy that we can't get that sort of, and it was an urban tax. We don't, obviously can't claim an urban tax by any means, but again, that's why it's so important that we get this, and again, it has to be voted on by the people in the community, but it's a sales tax, it's not ad valorem. And we could use this to pay for stuff to keep from having to add the ad valorem, but anyway, thanks for bringing that up.
No problem. Anyone else have anything for Ms. Griffin? See, you thought we'd left you a long time ago. Attorney Schuler, you're up next, sir.
All right, sir. At the last board meeting, the board voted to move forward with consideration of the abandonment of a alley/Gun Street on St. George Island, which is, Mike, can you put that map displayed up there for the board to look at, maybe the public? But it's, the legal description is all of a 30-foot wide alley/Gun Street in Block 3 East, St. George Island Gulf Beaches Subdivision, Unit 1, as recorded in Plat Book 2, page 7. That is located between Pine Avenue and Bayshore. Again, this is on St. George Island, Block 3 East, between 2nd Street East and 3rd Street East. And there's a resolution that I've attached to my report. That is the next step in this process, is if the board does want to move forward, the resolution of intent to abandon a public road/alley and scheduling a public hearing would need to be adopted. The advertising requirements for consideration of the abandonment of public interest in a road/alley requires at least 14 days, 2 weeks of advertisement as opposed to the usual 10 days. So the soonest the public hearing could be established by the board is the date that I have provided in the draft resolution, which is December 19th, 2023. I've chosen the time of 11 a.m. because that's usually when I schedule public hearings for the board. Yes, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. And so unless the board has any questions for me regarding the resolution, my recommendation based on the board's last action would be a motion to adopt the resolution and scheduling the public hearing for December 19th, 2023 at 11 a.m. for the board to consider the abandonment of the public interest in, again, all of a 30-foot wide alley/Gun Street in Block 3 East, St. George Island Gulf Beaches, Unit 1, a subdivision recorded in Plat Book 2, page 7, Franklin County, Florida.
Does everybody know where this is located? Okay.
Off of 3rd Street?
I know from what the map says, and I generally know where, from talking to the owner, it's actually a company called Spartan SGI LLC, but beyond that, I don't really.
Yeah, well, it's located down, it's actually, I don't think it's been an alley or a street in my lifetime that I ever remember. It's been there, but it's always been a part or used like it was somebody else's property anyway. And the property owner owns both sides, and they're looking to expand services at their restaurant, which is going to require a bigger unit for their aerobic unit for their septic system. So that's the reason they're looking at the county and asking us to abandon that area in between. It's all of my life it's been used as somebody else's property. So that's why I was good with it. That's just want to make mention of that.
So move.
All right, so we have a approval to schedule this public hearing for December 19th, 2023 at 11 o'clock with a motion by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Amison. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous.
I'm just double checking my calendar to make sure I've got it yes, that was the correct date. The next item is although the question is for the board to make a decision whether or not to appeal FACT's denial of the claim that was made against our insurance policy for the alleged flood damage made by, the claims made by Patrick Gill and Ken Osborne down at Alligator Point. Today would be the last day that the board could make a decision under the 15-day window allowed for appealing the denial. My recommendation is, and it's completely up to the board whether you do or not, but my recommendation would be not to file an appeal. I mean, they cited in the letter for denial a fairly strong exception from the coverage for flood damages in the policy, so it seems like the squeeze would not be worth the juice to go through the procedure. However, you can't ever tell what's going to happen on an appeal. Sometimes you might get a break. I mean, I can't say that you wouldn't, but that is a decision for the board to make, not for me.
So, Mr. Chairman, what happens if we don't appeal? We're gonna go to litigation potentially, or?
Well, that means there would not be any insurance coverage for any potential damages claim, or they would not appoint an outside counsel. It means that I would be the one defending the flood damages claim on behalf of the county, and if there should be a judgment against the county, you would be responsible for that payment up to the limited waiver of sovereign immunity limitations, which have been recently increased. I mean, it's gone from 100,000 to 200,000.
Has it went to court yet?
No, they just filed the notice of intent.
Okay.
They filed the claim.
Just a notice of intent. Okay.
Yeah. There's a 6-month waiting period before they can actually file anything.
Personally, I think that's all they were trying to get, but now that they've been
I'm
denied.
sorry, Commissioner.
Never mind.
This is basically to appeal their decision?
Yes, ma'am.
Not to,
Doesn't cost you anything to appeal it.
yeah, okay.
I read the, Mr. Chairman, the fax response, and Attorney Schuler is right. I mean, they flat out say that's not covered under their policy, our
Yeah.
policy, so it is, I think, a waste of time on Attorney Schuler's part to,
Yeah.
I just don't wanna get involved in litigation for something, it's like, you can never, again, there's always some kind of reaction to a good deed. No good deed goes unpunished. We're trying to provide stuff, and I get that these people's concerned, but do we not have, engineering? Do we not have?
We have all that.
Okay.
I had an initial phone conference with the representatives at Dewberry. I've had an initial conversation with the representative from the engineering firm that was responsible for the inspection services during construction. I'm still waiting on information to come from the inspection engineer. I've looked at some of the allegations. Of course, I'm no engineer, so this is just my personal opinion, but for example, one of the claims that they've made is that the floodwater sheeting off of the 10-foot wide bike path has flowed, in the instance of one property, about 180 feet from the road to Alligator Harbor, and in the other case, about 170 feet, based on what the property appraiser's website is showing me as the measurement from the road, the edge of the road where the bike path is, to their seawall. And both of these property owners are claiming that the floodwaters sheeting off of that bike path have caused their seawalls to fail. But on the face of it, it seems frivolous. It seems to lack merit. But I will wait for the professionals to weigh in and give me information and advice on whether that is a correct statement or not. But we'll just have to go through the process of review. Right now, I'm waiting on their engineer's report. They say that their attorney's Clayton Studstill. He informs me he received the report last week. Apparently he's traveling or something, and he wants a chance to review it, but I'm supposed to get their report this week, which I then will forward over to Dewberry and also the engineering inspection firm, and get their professional response to these allegations. But on the face of it, it makes no sense to me that a seawall would fail from stormwater coming from our 10-foot
I would
wide
hope
bike
not.
path traveling 175 feet on average, and then causing the seawall to fail. I just, all right.
Well,
Sounds like a badly built seawall.
Yeah, it could be poorly manufactured, I don't know.
let me ask you a
So
question.
let's not comment too much on that, let's just decide on the denial issue and move forward.
Let me, ask you a question, Mr. Schuler. On this, at the very bottom of his letter, the law firm, it says that the defendant's name is the Franklin County Board of County Commissioners and C.W. Roberts.
We're not defending C.W. Roberts.
That's what I'm saying. It wasn't Roberts. It wasn't C.W. Roberts. It was somebody else.
Oh, well,
That
that's,
was the contractor.
okay,
See what
well,
I'm saying? They don't even have their facts straight.
No pun intended.
That's right. Don't even have their facts straight.
like I said, I will receive their report, I will send it on to the two engineers that worked on the project, one for the construction, one for the inspections, and get their professional response to the alleged findings of their professional report, and we'll go from there.
I think we'd be wasting time with that opinion.
I agree.
I think.
Seems that way to me, Commissioner, but it was not
Seems pretty
my place to make that
straightforward.
Yeah, it
decision.
does. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to deny repealing the claim.
Okay, just not to appeal the
Right,
decision.
right. All right, so motion by Commissioner Ward to not appeal, and we have a second by Commissioner Amison. Any discussion or additional discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous.
Commissioners, I have several non-action items. I usually don't talk about them, but since the two of the non-action items are potential ordinances that you will be considering and potentially, or you will be considering and potentially adopting at some point in the future, I'll at least mention that based on your direction, I have scheduled for your December 5th meeting a public hearing to consider an ordinance increasing the voting requirements of this board from a simple majority, which is 3 out of 5, to essentially a super majority, which is 4 out of 5, before the board can make any increase to the maximum permissible building height in all zoning districts in the county, which essentially is 47 feet from what we refer to as natural grade to the peak of the roof. Now, the one exception to that I've noted in my report is in section 462 of your zoning code, you have some specified exceptions to that height restriction. And I mention that only so that the board and the public are aware that those existing exceptions to the 47-foot height restriction, those exceptions would not be affected by this potential new ordinance. It doesn't really apply to residential structures, but it's talking about chimneys, cooling towers, elevator bulkheads, fire towers, monument towers, scenery lofts, tanks, etc. And then public, semi-public, or public service buildings, hospitals, sanitariums, schools, and related structures, churches and temples may be erected to a height not exceeding 70 feet. So I just didn't want people to think that there were not any existing exceptions to the height restriction that would not also continue and enforced in effect after the board considers this new ordinance at your December 5th meeting. Does the board have any questions about that before I move on to the next item?
So it's basically the same as the TDC, you gotta have 4+1 as
Yes.
supermajority, same structure
Well, yes,
that we talked about earlier with the TDC.
yes, it's
Okay.
4 out of 5 or majority plus 1 of the membership of the governing board.
Mm-hmm.
Some county commissions have 7 members, some have 5. In our case, we have 5. So in our case, it would be 4 out of 5.
Okay.
But yes, sir. All right, and then the next draft ordinance is, as you've heard the chairman mention on a few occasions, he was seeking consideration of a countywide business license, and I have attached an initial draft. I am not requesting that the board set any public hearing on this potential countywide business license at this time. There's still a lot more work that needs to be done. When I was researching this, there was some reference in the state statute that we should look to adjoining counties and how they have adopted their existing business licenses. And I presume the public policy is they want consistency among, you know, adjoining counties and what the business licensing requirements are. So I looked to Gulf County, who had adopted one business ordinance or business license ordinance. I think it was in 2021, seemed fairly recent. So this document that you're looking at is not a complete reproduction of theirs. They had some things in there that did not seem to be Franklin County related. So I have stripped those out. But what I do need to do, and I'm in the process of doing, I want to contact Gulf County, talk with their attorney, maybe even have myself and Mike talk with the attorney and their administrator together to find out, you know, how do they roll this out? How do they implement it? You know, how do they administer it? Who's administering it? I also need to know, because the statute indicates to me that we would have to revenue share with the 2 municipalities in the county based on the ratio of the municipal population to the county population. I know the city of Apalachicola already has a business license because, hello, I pay one. Don't know about Carabel, so I need to find out, you know, does Wakulla County, does Gulf County and their municipalities, do their cities have business licenses in addition to the county license, and how do they deal with that? So I just want the board and the chairman to know that I'm working on it, but there's just a lot more work that needs to be done.
So this is gonna be for unincorporated Franklin County, isn't it?
This would be countywide. It would include every business both within and without the municipalities. That's just as an initial draft,
Okay.
but that's how Gulf County did it, and since the statute said to look to how your adjoining counties have implemented their business license, it seemed that was at least a good beginning point.
Okay.
Okay. All right, other than that, I have no further presentation for the board. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
I do have a question about one of the other things that's on here. And I know this has kind of been lingering and it was tabled last time, but we're here publicly. So we had this request for people wanting to buy these 12 lots. As I understand it, we acquired these 12 lots because they stayed on the tax roll for forever. And they finally reverted to the county. But to sell them, we would have to basically auction them.
Yep.
I'm not good with that. They could have come and bought those tax certificates anytime they were for sale. That's just me personally, but they could have come and done that at any point in time. I'm definitely, if it was somewhere it was gonna be appraised and we're looking at selling it, that's one thing. But to auction it off, and if they, you know, if nobody auctions and they say $500 an acre and they get it, no, I'm not good with that.
Well, the board would set the terms, and I hear what you're saying, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
but just so you know, the county commission, if you chose to follow that statutory procedure to auction off county-owned lands,
Yeah.
the board would establish the terms of that auction, so you
Right.
could set a minimum bid of, you know, such and such.
Yeah.
So it would not just be a matter where you,
Yeah.
without condition, throw it out to the highest and best bidder, and the highest best bid is $1, and your hands are tied. No, sir, it doesn't work
Okay.
out.
Well, I mean, again, I wanted to wait till we were public so we could talk about it, but that was because at any point, if they were interested in that property, they could have went and bought. The only reason we have them is because of failure to pay the taxes on them. They could have went and bought those tax certificates and they could have owned them legally with what, is it a 3-year time? If they buy them back and they could notice in the paper and the people don't respond to it, it becomes theirs.
I know.
No.
Well, can I make a comment on that?
Yes.
That's out there, northeast of Carabel.
It is.
And I looked, and it's quite a little bit of high land
It is.
out there. And I was gonna tell you all my feelings about it. I think we need to leave it alone. I think that's in the middle of the city of Carabel.
Yep.
I think that there may become a time that maybe the city will do something, or the county and the city together may do something for workforce housing or anything like that. So right now, I mean, cause it's right off of Fifth Street, Avenue I and Fifth Street,
Yep.
back in there, and it's the same people that bought those tax certificates not too long ago. But anyway, I would say, leave it alone. It's county property, it's the people's property, and we don't need to mess with it. What I'd say. Thank you, Mr.
And
Chairman.
furthermore, Mr. Chairman, you've reached out to them per our last meeting to get more information, and they've not responded, so.
That's correct. I did when the board said you wanted more information, that triggered me to actually start scratching beneath the surface of the request and looking at the 12 parcels. We don't even own all 12 of the 12 parcels that they referred to. My research indicates that, as I showed you in the report, 8 out of the 12 are owned by other entities. And so, you know, I forget exactly what my email said to them, but they're basically, are these the correct parcel ID numbers? Is it somewhere else? Do you just want the request before that we own? And I haven't received anything back.
All right. Anything else for Attorney Schuler? So we're to Commissioner comments.
If I might,
Oh, go ahead.
personal moment.
Yes.
I agree with everything y'all said about Commissioner Lockley. I'm not gonna say much because I'll start crying.
I know it, I know it.
Yeah.
Good man,
Yes, he was.
great man.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, he was. Why do y'all think I didn't say anything?
Hey, we got some Kleenexes right here.
Look,
Well, you know,
here's
hearing
the
in
thing,
my,
though. We're all good with it,
I
Commissioner.
know it.
That's why I made that time. Trust
I
me.
know, and that's it. And you know what? What I am so glad to do is he got to see me back in office again. He said, "That you're my buddy. You got to get back in there." And I told him, I said, "I'm trying hard." And so when all this happened, I went up there and I just felt the need to go visit him. And I went and visited him 5 times. And it was just like he said, "Sheriff, I'm going to tell you something. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because when I came on that board, I thought I knew everything, and I didn't know nothing." He said, "And you took me by the hand, and you said, 'Come on with me. I'll show you what you need to do to be a good commissioner.'" And he was an excellent commissioner. You know why? Because he loved Franklin County, and he loved the people that lived here in Franklin County. And there ain't a thing that he wouldn't do to help anybody. If it come from the bay to the matchbox to everything else. He was real instrumental in getting that clinic over here for his people, the people that he represented and the people of Apalachicola, because he didn't think it was right for them to be turned away from the emergency room. And that's the reason why. He was all about Franklin County. I could go on forever about him. But I told him, I took his hand up in my hand because he was weak. And I said, "Mr. Noah, I want you to know, I'm going to let you know that I am so proud that you are my friend." I said, "Let me tell you what God has put you on this earth to do is build foundations. And that, sir, you have done. Now it's time for you to go and build them foundations up in heaven for God's kingdom." And he looked at me and he said, "I ain't gone yet, Cheryl." I said, "Well, that's exactly what he said. Y'all know it is."
Yep.
And I said, "No, but you know, you're going to go home." And so the next time, my last time going to see him, next to last time I took him a pound cake, but the last time I went to see him, he said, "I'm ready to go home, Cheryl." How about that? So that's the man. That's the man. It was about family. It was about God's family and the people of Franklin County, just like all of us are. And his love for Apalachicola and the people. But thank you, Mr. Chairman, for letting me say something. And I can't believe I didn't cry. But I didn't. I have to be strong, you know. But he was a good man, very good man. Served 15 years with him. Even though I left 4 years and come back, I still served 15 years with him. But anyway, he was a good man. And he loved his possum sandwiches. Now, just like Otis said, we won't never look at a possum the same way, will we?
Mr. Chairman, on another note, I just want to wish happy Thanksgiving to everybody and don't eat too much turkey.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. We good?
That was in.
Oh, okay. I thought you was doing the same thing. Okay, we'll leave it.
I've heard that right there.
And remember, we've got a local hunting season starting on Thanksgiving Day. I wish everybody luck, but I wish everybody many blessings in this county. We are so blessed to live here, and I
Yes, we
thank
are.
God for it. But anyway, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate you and the board tolerating me.
Not a problem.
And,
Tolerate, we don't tolerate you.
Well,
No.
in the
No,
spirit,
y'all don't tolerate me sometimes.
in the spirit of consistency, I will tell you that the Franklin County Seahawks tonight are gonna be in Arnold. JV starts at 5:30, varsity girls at 6:30, and the boys at 8. They're starting off the season on a different note. Like the first 7 games are all away. And then they're also playing a week from today at FAMU in Tallahassee. And that time is yet to be determined. But expecting great things because we don't rebuild, we just reload here in Franklin County.
We got a lot of
It's
talent.
basketball season, so we're gonna get updates.
That's right.
We ain't
You're gonna get updates
You
to
heard the name,
basketball.
We ain't through with football yet now. Saturday is Florida versus FSU.
yeah,
Both of them's got hurt quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Messed up
Thanks for bringing that up.
So you
Yeah.
and
Yeah. We're gonna see how it comes
you can
out
sit over there.
in the swamp. We're gonna see how it comes out in the swamp.
You can sit right over there at that table. That's the Gator table.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. There you go.
Oh, no.
All right, anything else?
Did he say winner's table?
All right.
No, Gators table.
Meeting adjourned.